Chapter 2097. Rip. Half of her long golden hair was severed. The sudden attack startled Longya as her face was filled with shock. Under the sudden attack, Longya turned her head mechanically to look at the two from the Long clan. Longdi's eyes widened in an instant. Buzz! His eyes were filled with shock. Before he could circulate his true energy, Longya's back was suddenly pushed forward by a huge force. In an instant, her internal organs felt as though they were squeezed together. In the next second, she spat out a huge mouthful of blood. Su Yi's eyes trembled. He waved his heavy sword and blocked Long Shan's light beam. Longya flew towards him like a human cannonball. Han Wulong, bring her back! Su Yi shouted and stabbed his heavy sword into the ground. He opened his arms and pulled Longya into his embrace. Yuan Qi surged under his feet. He twisted his body on the spot and used the rising Yao's 100 transformation steps to create a circle of wind to disperse Longya's attack. Whoosh whoosh! In a flash, 3 white streams of light passed by Su Yi. Han Wulong and Su Yi brushed past each other. Han Wulong looked at Longya in his arms and shouted angrily. Motherf *Ker, using a woman as a shield. Do you want to die? Su Yi steadied himself and looked at Longya, who was bleeding profusely in his arms. His eyebrows instantly sank and a strong killing intent surged into his heart. His blood and qi surged as he shouted, "Cripple them!" Yes. Look at Zhengsheng section. Chapter Z**. Square root A0 above. Han Wulong nodded heavily. The 2 Yuan domain experts from the Boundless sect had already chased after them. Soon, a few earth-shattering sounds echoed in the sky. In a flash, energy light beams exploded and flickered. Bang! Boom! In the sky, Long Shan and Long Di worked together. Their auras rumbled and the golden light was dazzling. The surging golden streams of light were like 2 intertwining golden dragons. Han Wulong had the support of the golden dragon's aura. He could almost fight a second-stage Yuan domain expert to a draw. He cooperated well with the 2 Yuan domain experts from the Boundless sect, and the light beam in his hand exploded. In an instant, sonic booms rang out incessantly, and the sky was filled with resplendent light. Below, Su Yi was half-squatting on the ground with Longya in his arms. Longya's eyes were wide open in shock and disbelief. His stunned face clearly showed that he did not believe that Long Shan and Long Di would actually use him as a shield to escape. Longya's pearly white teeth were already stained with blood. Her snow-white jade-like hands pulled on Su Yi's clothes, her throat constantly moving, and her aura was weak. Su Yi, I don't want to kill the people of Shanglong village. Do you know? Longya's watery eyes were filled with regret and guilt. Su Yi nodded. His brows were tightly knitted together. Looking at the rude but kind woman in front of him, he sighed. The people of the Long clan are all evil people. In order to escape, they actually did such despicable things. Su Yi gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, I know that we didn't want things to turn out this way. Don't say anything, let me heal you first. After speaking, Su Yi stretched out his arm, but it was tightly grabbed by Longya. Longya, whose face was already covered in tears, said in a low voice as her lips gradually turned white. Don't save me. A few days ago you let me go. This time, I'll return my life to you. The Long clan and you have countless grudges, but I don't want to owe you anything. Longya's lips curved slightly, then she closed her eyes and fainted. Longya! Su Yi cried out in alarm. He quickly placed his finger on Longya's pulse and felt the remnants of her weak vitality. His heart calmed down a little. Holding Longya in front of him, the blood demon killing god's sword suddenly rose into the air and dissipated. Su Yi raised his head to look at the battle in the sky, and his face suddenly turned pale. Long Shan and Long Di, one only used a soul attack, and the other was seriously injured. In less than 300 rounds, they had already lost. Looking at Longya in his arms, Su Yi circulated his vitality, took a step forward, and returned to the limitless sect. No matter how shocking the explosions behind him were, Su Yi's heart was still silent and gloomy, and his face was as cold as steel. After returning to the limitless sect, Han Yuro saw Su Yi and led him to the cultivation room where Han Wulong usually cultivated. Long Ye gently placed Long Ye on the ground. At this moment, Long Ye looked as if she had been fished out of a blood-soaked vat. Scarlet and terrifying, she was like a delicate and beautiful rose, making people feel pity for her. Her eyes were tightly closed, her red lips were pursed, and her breathing was rapidly twitching. Su Yi knew very well what would have happened if Long Di's attack had hit him. Long Di, I want you dead. Su Yi clenched his teeth, and his hatred for the Long clan increased. Bang! With a stomp of his foot, dozens of black iron plates were tightly connected and instantly turned into powder under the heavy impact. Without any delay, Han Yuro had already gathered all the medicine that Su Yi needed and placed them neatly on the table. She then frowned and glanced at Long Ye, who was covered in blood. She sighed and quietly left the room. She walked to Long Ye's side, and a delicate and soft voice came out from her cherry lips. Su Yi listened carefully and heard Long Ye saying, "If I bring Zhong Yunkong back, grandfather will see me in a new light, and young Master Long Tsang will also see me in a higher light." Su Yi, but why did Su Yi have to be him? After hearing that, Su Yi sighed, and a faint voice came from his heart. This girl's nature isn't bad. Being born in a place like the Long clan, it's not easy for her to have such a temperament. But if you save her, is it really a good thing for her? Qi Feihong's tone was solemn. For a moment, the hands that were about to lift Long Ye stopped in the air. Su Yi muttered in his heart, "Yes, if I save her, how will she face her grandfather and Draconis, that old bastard?" There was bound to be a battle between him and the Long clan. If he saved Long Ye, would he kill her with his own hands? While he was thinking, Long Ye's curvy back suddenly trembled, and blood spurted out from her mouth again. Forget it, save her first. Su Yi lifted his elbows and sealed 3 acupoints on Long Ye's back with his palms, stopping the primordial qi from flowing out. Bang bang! Su Yi's brows moved slightly, and a majestic soul pressure shot out from between his brows and enveloped Su Yi. Long Ye's injuries were caused by the soul energy attack that was mixed with the aura of the golden dragon. Therefore, Long Ye's injuries were double. Carefully inspecting Long Ye's injuries, Su Yi couldn't help but gasp. He said hatefully, "Long Di is so cruel. Forget it, save her first." After thinking for a while, Su Yi still decided to save Long Ye. A ray of light shot out from his palm, and like a sharp blade, it cut open Long Ye's outer clothes. Ugh! Long Ye's tightly shut eyes moved slightly as she tilted her head slightly to the right. Large beads of sweat covered her forehead. With a ripping sound, the gold-threaded clothes were directly cut open, revealing the snow-white back that was wrapped in undergarments. Chapter 2098. Looking at her from the back, her slim waist had an extreme sense of beauty. Her exquisite and graceful curves seemed to be made by nature. Su Yi's throat rolled as he closed his eyes. His face was red as he hurriedly circulated the art of driving the heavens. He steadied his mind and calmed himself down. Then, he gently pulled away the clothes on Long Ye's shoulders. His palm stroked the dazzling golden wave. Her long hair gently spread over her snow-white back. It was dazzling like the sun, causing Su Yi's heart to flutter again. Long Ye's face was pale as she sat on the bed. She could vaguely feel Su Yi removing her clothes. Unconsciously, a sense of shyness spread to her neck. "Long Ye, bear with it. I'm sorry." Su Yi's gentle voice sounded in Long Ye's ears. His soft and masculine breath made Long Ye let her guard down. Long Ye's face trembled slightly. She tried her best to open her eyes, but when she felt 2 warm hands on her back, she let out a soft moan. She was panting and her body went limp. She fell into a coma again. With the golden dragon flesh, external injuries are not a big problem for her. The most important thing is to remove the damage to her soul. Sui took off all of Long Ya's clothes. His forehead was already sweating. Facing such a beautiful woman, it was definitely difficult to calm down and heal her. A surge of soul energy shot out from between Suyi's eyebrows. Suyi's palm slid from Long Ya's back to her waist. He pressed inwards and opened up her meridians. A faint golden dragon aura instantly spread over her snow-white back. Immediately, Suyi's soul energy covered the sky and covered Long Ya like a shield. The soul energy that entered Long Ya's body also released a strong halo. Boom! A small stream of air circulated rapidly between the two. Sui, who was inside the light shield, closed his eyes. Long Ya, on the other hand, calmed down a lot because of the pure golden dragon aura. Father! Han Yuro and the other experts of the Limitless sect had been waiting at the entrance. At this moment, Han Wulong rushed back like the wind. Han Wulong frowned and looked at the closed door. He whispered, "How long has it been?" "It's been almost an hour." Han Yuro frowned and asked Han Wulong in a low voice, "Father, who is the girl that Sui brought back?" Han Wulong shook his head, indicating that he couldn't say anything. Suddenly, a crack appeared on the door. Through the crack, a bright golden light poured out. "Sect Master Han, come in." Suyi's voice slowly floated out, his magnetic voice instantly filling the corridor. Buzz! Violent waves of energy surged forth like a tide. Han Yuro and the Infinite Sect's experts behind her all felt an ancient and desolate aura of a divine beast. Their eyes immediately turned solemn. What a fierce golden dragon aura! Han Wulong's eyes shone brightly as shock and fear flashed across his face. He quickly pushed open the door and entered. Long Ya was already lying down. Her breathing was steady, and her eyes were tightly closed as she slept peacefully. Her perfect body was covered by a soft, cloud-patterned quilt. Her clean and tidy undergarments slightly revealed her white, sparkling shoulders, which were connected to her naturally charming collarbone, fully showing her youthful beauty. "Sit." In front of the table, Sui was slightly tired. He nodded at Han Wulong, indicating that Han Wulong should sit down. Han Wulong was startled. He passed through the overwhelming golden dragon aura in the void and sat down boldly. He replied, "Long Shan is seriously injured and has been killed by my palm. I left one alive in the death row prison. Commander, you can check it out." Thinking of Long Shan, Suyi's face was still ashen. A fierce killing intent surged across his face. He said, "It's a pity that I didn't kill this beast with my own hands. But fortunately there's Long D." After that, he turned to look at Long Ya. Sui frowned and said, "I'll do some breathing exercises to recover. Later, let Yuro bring her to the death row prison too." 4 hours later. The limitless death row prison was dark and dim like hell. Crackle! Flames rose high into the sky. The tiny sparks were like demons demanding lives. They opened their bone-chilling eyes and stared at the sinners imprisoned here. The dungeons were dark and damp. The limitless sect's death row prison was even more so. It was set 10,000 meters below the limitless river. The scorching earth vein flames tortured the sinners, causing them to complain incessantly. Under Han Wulong's lead, Sui passed through a dark and deep secret door. He then went down a dozen cliff-like passes. Finally, he bent down and passed through a dozen narrow tunnels. His figure continued to explore downwards until he finally arrived in front of the limitless death row prison. "It's a good choice to cultivate here." Sui raised his eyes. The fiery red earth vein on the surrounding walls flickered with the radiance of energy. The fire attribute energy was extremely rich. Taking a closer look, the fire vein reflected a bright radiance. It was clear and flawless. The air waves that were constantly evaporating disappeared as soon as they left the fire vein. In front of him stood a stone door carved with cloud patterns. Under the scorching heat, It was as red as a soldering iron. It was like a guard guarding the safety of the limitless sect. Commander, it's true that cultivating here is good, but it's also extremely dangerous. It's said that the Thunder Fire Temple has the pagoda sea of flames. Our limitless sect also has a terrifying fire vein. It's only used to imprison the death row prisoners of the limitless sect. Han Wulong smiled at Su-yi, slightly proud. The captured Long Di was placed in the center of the fire vein. Han Wulong told Su-yi that no matter how high his cultivation was, he would be a cripple if he escaped after 3 days. Good. If the Long family's people are captured, they'll all be placed here and tortured. Su-yi snorted. As soon as he finished speaking, Han Wulong's hand seals condensed in front of him at lightning speed. The blazing stone door opened with a loud bang, and a scorching heat wave blew Su-yi's black hair into a mighty flutter. Even though he was mentally prepared, Su-yi still couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Immediately, a stream of light flashed under his feet, and Su-yi arrived near the fire vein like a phantom. Long Di was being hooked by 4 huge chains. The chains were connected to the 4 stone pillars that supported the death row prison. The mysterious runes on the pillars were circulating with a mystical radiance. At a glance, one could tell that they were set up by an expert. "Let me out. Su-yi, you bastard! The Long family won't let you off." The moment he saw Su-yi coming, Long Di was like a mad beast. His scarlet eyes were wide open as he roared endlessly. Bang! The moment Long Di's aura fluctuated, the top of the death row prison sensed it. 4 silver lightning arcs flickered out of thin air. They followed the chains and landed on Long Di's body like 4 terrifying tentacles. Immediately, wind and thunder erupted in the death row prison, clanging endlessly. Boom! 4 consecutive thunderous booms resounded. The falling lightning bolts were like whips, and all of them landed on Long Di's body. The enormous pressure of the lightning bolts caused the death row prison to churn. Ah! Long Di cried out in pain. His Yuan domain realm flesh was blasted open, and his flesh was dripping with blood. Chapter 2099. His charred skin and flesh rolled up. The smell of roasting mixed with the smell of cooked meat permeated the air above the fire vein. It was unpleasant to the nose. Long Di was roasted non-stop, and his painful screams echoed throughout the air. His aura was weakening bit by bit, and his hands and feet were still bound by the 4 large chains. Without the chains, he would have been paralyzed on the ground, unable to move. Being above the fire vein, the extreme heat caused Long Di's meridians to expand like worms. Standing on the spot, Long Di's exposed chest was stained with blood. He slowly raised his malicious eyes and stared at Su-yi. Su-yi's gaze was incomparably cold as he looked at the Long family's expert. The 4 bolts of lightning were too shocking. Su-yi's heart was still shaken. Even with the mysterious ball of light protecting his body, he still felt the terrifying illusion of being turned into ashes in an instant. Long Di was a super expert at the 5th stage of the origin domain stage, but no matter how strong his soul energy was, it would not be able to last long in the face of the lightning and high-temperature flames. He had to quickly ask what he wanted. "This guy is very prickly." The dead Long Shan did not have any backbone and surrendered very quickly. In order to capture him, the 2 Grand Elders and I spent a lot of effort. Han Wulong rubbed his wrist as the corners of his mouth curled slightly. He looked coldly at Long Di. Hearing the conversation between Han Wulong and Su-yi, Long Di spat and breathed heavily. His blood-red eyes were filled with hatred as he coldly shouted, "Kill me if you can! Su-yi, do you think Lord Dragon God will let you go?" Hearing this, Han Wulong immediately exploded. His aura surged and the 4 chains binding him began to stir. The chains emitting dazzling arcs of light began to tremble like waves. A wave of oppressive flame energy traveled along the long chains and into Long Di's body. Soon after, a painful howl resounded through the air. Even the Long family members are so annoying. Do you still want to show off in my territory? To tell you the truth, I've had enough of you relying on the tiger's might. Say another word and I'll chop you up again." Suddenly, Long Di's entire body began to tremble, and he forcefully endured the heart-wrenching pain in his throat. Scarlet blood flowed from the top of his head all the way to his chin. Long Di didn't even dare to breathe loudly as he stared at Sui. "Why is Draconis in such a hurry to open the Golden Dragon Mystery Realm?" Sui looked at the haggard Draconis without any sympathy. Hearing this, Long Di, who had his head lowered and legs spread apart, slowly raised his head and sneered. "Just kill me! I won't say anything." "You!" Han Wulong exploded once again. Long Di's stubborn personality made Han Wulong furious. "I know even if you don't tell me." Inviting the immeasurable sect to find the superior dragon bloodline, isn't it to reopen the Golden Dragon Mystery Realm? The Long family didn't even make a move against external threats like me and the Duanmu Qintian. Tell me, why is that? Crossing his arms in front of his chest, Sui lightly nodded his chin and looked at Long Di with a chilling smile on his face. In an instant, Long Di's cries immediately stopped. His fierce gaze had already been replaced by shock, and his gaze towards Sui had also become extremely astonished. Sui was able to point out the Long family's current situation with just a few words. Was he really just a 19-year-old youth? No wonder the Dragon God had always given the order to not make a move against Sui unless it was absolutely necessary. How much did a youth with a pure bloodline like him know about the Long family? Long Di's silence made Han Wulong frown. He lowered his voice and said to Sui, "Commander, Long Di is just a deacon in the Long family. There are probably many things he doesn't know, right?" Slowly raising his head, Sui smiled thoughtfully. The change in Long Di's attitude had actually confirmed Sui's thoughts. "Chi La." Stepping on the gravel, Sui leisurely walked toward Long Di. His eyes were clear and bright, and they flickered with a deep golden radiance. Golden dragon tattoos crept up his limbs as an enormous aura shot toward Long Di. "What are you doing?" Long Di's terrified gaze trembled under the light of the fire. With every step Sui took, Long Di could feel an enormous pressure enveloping him. Unknowingly, his originally powerless legs began to tremble. The youth standing in front of him actually had a soul pressure comparable to the dragon gods? After pondering for a moment, Sui shrugged and changed his question to comfort Long Di. "You're at the 5th layer of the origin domain stage after all. The difference in soul energy is too great. The soul search art of the driving heaven art is still useless. Relax, don't be so nervous. If you really don't want to talk, I can't do anything to you." Long Di's lazy smile was like a spring breeze drifting through the death row prison. However, he didn't let down his guard at all. His small round eyes looked around as his throat rolled a few times. Large beads of sweat landed on the fire vein, producing an ear-piercing sizzling sound. Sui stared at Long Di for a while before he stretched lazily and turned to walk away. After taking 2 steps, he suddenly stopped and turned to look at Long Di. "Oh right, is your dragon god so afraid of the old man? Why hasn't the old man recovered yet?" Seeing Sui turn around, Long Di, who had originally heaved a sigh of relief, instantly tensed up. He replied stiffly, "None of us have seen the old man before. However, the dragon god seems to be afraid of—" Before he could finish his sentence, Long Di, whose mouth was agape, immediately froze on the spot. It was as though he had been petrified. His slack face began to twitch crazily. In the next second, Long Di's entire face twisted together. His neck and shoulders contracted as he violently sucked in a breath of scorching hot air. It wasn't clear whether it was tears or sweat, but the corners of his wet mouth were wide open. He roared angrily, "Sui, you bastard! You tricked me!" Han Wulong nodded in understanding and gave Sui a thumbs up. What a good way to put it. Let his guard down and take his life. Old man. Then, Han Wulong fell silent. He looked at Su-yi strangely, who was smiling. It seemed that the commander knew more about the Long family than he did. What did I trick you? You said it yourself. Su-yi shrugged, expressing his innocence. Pfft. Behind him, not far from the death row prison, a weak laugh slowly sounded. Su-yi's eardrums twitched slightly. He glanced back from the corner of his eye. Then, he looked back at Long Di, who was already in despair, and said, I have 2 more questions. They have nothing to do with the Long family. If you answer them, I can let you go. Long Di lowered his head and remained silent. Su-yi looked down from above, arrogant and noble, and asked again. The ancient Cloud Immortal sect is an aristocratic family like you. Do you know how to get to the ancient Cloud Immortal sect? The Yun family? Long Di had completely given up resisting. He looked at Su-yi blankly, then shook his head and said seriously, The way to get to the aristocratic family is a top secret. Deacons like us don't know. I'm afraid that only elders and above know. Chapter 2100. Su-yi's heart sank. The road to the Yun family was really long. He frowned and said seriously, One last question. You could have used Long Shan as a scapegoat. Why did you choose Longya? Crack. Not far away, a faint aura rippled out. Han Wulong and Su-yi looked at each other without revealing anything. Speak. Longya is Long Kuei's precious granddaughter. Aren't you afraid that Long Kuei will kill you when you return? Han Wulong's fierce aura surged out. Long Di's chest shook and he spat out another mouthful of blood. Long Kuei is comparable to young Palace Master Long Tsang? Long Di sucked in a breath. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth as he looked at Su-yi with an evil smile. Long Tsang is involved in this? Han Wulong's expression changed and he sucked in a breath. Su-yi frowned and glanced at the weak golden figure behind him. He slowly raised his eyes and listened to Long Di's wild laughter. Su-yi, do you really think that young Palace Master Long Tsang has no way to deal with you? Before we came, the higher-ups ordered us to cripple you and bring you back if we meet you. You won't be able to last long. Ah. Long Tsang can even kill Longya. Su-yi narrowed his eyes and his lips curled up. A murderous intent flashed across his eyes. The cold young man from the Tianfeng ranking tournament suddenly appeared in his mind. His methods were so ruthless. It seemed that he could not forget about him. Long Di spat out a mouthful of blood. His white teeth revealed a venomous expression. Long Ye and you have a close relationship. Anyone with eyes can see that. Do you still want to deny it? Young Master Long Tsang personally ordered that anyone related to you must die. Even Long Ye is no exception. Even if I can't cripple you, I can't let such a person return to the Long family. Either he dies or I die. This is very similar to the Long family's methods. Even the great elder's granddaughter can be sacrificed at any time. Not bad. Su-yi nodded with a cold smile. He turned around and a ray of light flashed under his feet. He quickly opened up a distance on the ground and headed out of the prison. Wait, you! Didn't you say you were going to let me go? Long Di shouted in panic when he saw Su-yi's departing figure. As soon as he finished speaking, Su-yi continued to walk forward. The 2 figures arrived in front of Long Di. Long Ye looked at him coldly. Her pale face was filled with anger. Su-yi agreed to let you go, but I won't. Long Ye shouted from behind. Lowering his head, Su-yi's brows were solemn. Then, he rushed out of the death cell like a phantom. Endless explosions erupted behind Su-yi. Long Di's cries for mercy and cries for help mixed together. Following Su-yi's departure, all of the commotion faded into nothingness. The red sun was setting in the west, and the sky was filled with sunset clouds. The drunken crimson sky was like a charming woman who was smiling. In the sky above the immeasurable river, the cries of beasts lingered in the air. Spirit birds circled in the air, and the carefree flying demonic beasts competed with each other to play. Flapping their huge wings, they brought up a stream of air and pushed the clouds forward. Sitting on the high ground, Sui looked at the beautiful and gorgeous sky, but he was deep in thought and did not speak. The old man that City Lord Lu mentioned is in the Long family. The Long family should now be facing internal and external troubles. They are frantically looking for Duanmu Qintian outside. I'm afraid it's not as simple as getting the golden heavenly stone and reaching the peak of martial arts. This old man probably has a lot to do with it. Qi Feihong faintly analyzed in his mind. His ethereal voice was like the sound of the wind as it slid past Su Yi's ears. Sui replied. What are you thinking about? Looking at the haggard Sui, he asked in a low voice. Sui clapped his hands and took a deep breath. Looking at the twilight clouds, he said softly, the Long family is a little sick now. They're desperately trying to find a doctor. That old man hasn't come out for a long time. He must have not recovered yet. It's not even enough to use one of Ruashi's mother's exquisite eggs. If he knows about Ruashi, will the old man that even the Long family is afraid of go crazy? The Long family has not been eliminated, but I can't let the old man run out again. The old man is from the outer realm. I must not complicate things now. Bending his knees, resting one arm on his knee and the other hand on the ground, Sui raised his head and slowly closed his eyes. I have to get stronger as soon as possible. Stopping the Long family and digging out that old man is the most important thing. Muttering to himself, Sui took a breath of thin air. Just as he was about to stand up, a wisp of fragrance suddenly came over. A golden figure flashed in front of his eyes. A charming figure was leaning against a tree and looking at Sui. It was Longya, who had just come out of the death cell. Without the arrogance and nobility from before, Longya crossed her arms and looked at Sui. Her red lips were tightly pursed and her beautiful eyelashes were slightly lowered. Dead? Sui asked. Snorting softly, Longdi's death was not out of Suyi's expectations. The woman in front of him was also not easy to deal with. What's your next step? Longya asked Sui. Her nose twitched slightly as she murmured in his ear. Do you still want to kill me? Sui smiled faintly. Looking at Sui, Longya's slender legs straightened slightly. Her body trembled as she said, not all members of the Long family are treacherous people who bite the hand that feeds them. Who do you think I am? Sui pursed his lips and shifted his gaze away from Longya. He looked at the clouds in the sky again and nodded, as if to say that he did not save the wrong person. You shouldn't be enemies with the Long family. Longya sighed softly. Sui smiled faintly. His brows relaxed and he said seriously, you shouldn't stay in the Long family either. We have different standpoints. I can't help it. Without the Long family, we might be able to become good friends. Longya raised her hand slightly. There was a trace of sadness in her eyes. Sniffing, Sui stretched and said, at least for now we are good friends. Maybe that's enough? After saying that, Longya's eyes flashed with a strange light. She said to the lazy figure, Han Wulong asked me to return to the Long family, and I promised him that I will not make things difficult for the immeasurable sect in this life. After returning to the Long family, I won't care about the outside world anymore. Slowly turning around, Suyi's face gradually softened. He said humbly and gently, after returning, remember to put your heart on someone who is worth it. Is it you? Longya's expression changed. Her eyebrows twitched slightly. A trace of expectation and shyness flashed across her face that had not yet fully recovered. At that moment, Sui paused for a moment, his eyes flashing with astonishment. He only heard Longya's charming laughter as if she was trying to help him out of a predicament. Her silvery voice instantly disrupted Suyi's thoughts. I'm just teasing you. I don't like a bastard like you. Before you leave, just promise me one thing. Consider it as compensation for robbing my upper dragon village. Sui smiled. No man in the world would refuse this beautiful woman in front of him no matter what she said. His eyes were clear. He nodded solemnly at Long Ye and said, "Say it. I will do it as long as I can." Chapter 2101. It's very simple. Open your arms and close your eyes. Long Ye smiled and said obediently. Looking at this mature and charming face that actually revealed the feelings of a young girl, Su Yi's heart suddenly swayed, and he actually laughed subconsciously. At that moment, Su Yi, who was deep in thought, curled his lips and looked at Long Ye's moon eyes. He slowly opened his arms and closed his eyes as he listened to her command. "Are you done?" Just as he was about to open his mouth to speak, a mellow and elegant fragrance entered his nose. Su Yi, who had his eyes closed, suddenly trembled, and a pair of soft and boneless hands wrapped around his waist. Out of Su Yi's expectations, Long Ye actually hugged Su Yi tightly. "Don't open your eyes!" Being stopped by Long Ye's angry shout, Su Yi's eyelids fluttered a few times, but in the end, he still did not open his eyes. The two of them were just a head's length away from each other. The rich fragrance in her hair that was like a golden waterfall faintly slipped into Su Yi's heart. "Long Ye, what are you doing?" Su Yi's face was nervous. He was a little overwhelmed by the sudden beautiful encounter in front of him. Because he could not see, he did not know where to put his hands. Long Ye's moon face was tightly pressed against Su Yi's heart. Her moon eyes were tightly closed, and she took a deep breath calmly. Chirp, in the distance, spiritual birds flapped their wings and flew in flocks. In a few breaths, they cut through the sky and flew far away. A gentle breeze blew past Su Yi and Long Ye. Under the intoxicating sunset, Su Yi and Long Ye seemed to be like this for eternity. For the first time, Su Yi discovered that a fierce and unruly woman like Long Ye also had a quiet and gentle side. Unable to see anything, Su Yi's thoughts also flew away with the birds. The burning desire in his abdomen slowly flew along his meridians from his dantian to his heart. The tighter Long Ye hugged him, the faster Su Yi's heart beat and his cheeks burned. At that moment, Su Yi froze on the spot. He could only feel Long Ye's hands on Su Yi's back. It was just right for him to immerse himself in a moment of peace. Although he could be considered an experienced man now, when faced with such a charming beauty throwing herself into his arms, he couldn't help but be intoxicated. The pores all over his body were like blooming peach blossoms, opening up one by one. "Did you know? This is the first time I've left the palace, and I've already encountered a fellow disciple who tried to harm me. But I'm also glad that I came. I finally know what I want. It doesn't matter if I can't get it for a few decades. Su Yi, you stinking bastard. You set me up and saved me. I really hate you." Long Ye secretly opened her eyes and a trace of shyness flashed through her starry eyes. She immediately pursed her red lips and hugged Su Yi a little tighter. "Long Ye, Su Yi tried his best to keep himself awake. He stood there awkwardly and said softly, "You must forget about me in the future. The next time we meet, we'll be enemies. I won't be merciful." Su Yi chuckled. He knew in his heart that if he really met this lady in the Long family, he might not be able to do it. He had no place to put his hand, so he gently patted Long Ye's golden hair. It was as smooth as silk with a little warmth, making one's heart sway. Nodding his head lightly, the corners of his mouth gently rose into a smile. His gaze moved down to the side of Long Ye's beautiful face as he faintly said, "Got it." Her jade lips spoke softly with deep affection. The two of them chatted in this charming atmosphere for a while. When Su Yi felt his chest being gently pushed by her jade hand, he opened his eyes. Instantly, Su Yi opened his eyes and saw a golden stream of air flash in front of him. The energy that appeared out of nowhere was like a small storm as it flew towards the beautiful dusk. In the distant sky, Long Ye's slightly resentful and reproachful voice was as soft as water. It slowly fell with the night. "Su Yi, you little bastard. Go and do what you want to do. You can go anywhere, but don't come to the Long family. Looking at the golden flowing light that Longya left, Su-yi gradually came back to his senses. He thought of Longya's words and touched his chest. There was indeed something strange. She left something for me. Su-yi's eyes moved slightly. He then looked up again. The sky was getting dark, and there was no trace of Longya in the vast world. Su-yi turned around and found a huge rock. He took out a sturdy object from the interlayer on his chest. Using the remaining sunlight, Su-yi took a closer look. It was a crystal token in the shape of a dragon scale. A faint golden glow enveloped the crystal. It was crystal clear, like a warm jade. 2 faint golden dragon breaths emerged from the dragon scale. They broke out of the crystal token like shadows. A surging aura of energy shot out from the light patterns around it. Su-yi casually probed it with his soul and knew that there was an enormous amount of energy in it. This is the Long family's dragon armor token. It's a storage device similar to a space bag. The difference is that other than being able to store things, you can also use your soul energy to carve a soul imprint. You can use the aura of the golden dragon to extract important information from it. Chi Feihong immediately told Su-yi after making sure that Longya was far away. Hearing Chi Feihong's introduction, Su-yi raised his eyebrows and moved the dragon armor token, which still had Longya's unique fragrance, closer. Is that so? Suddenly, the corner of Su-yi's mouth curled up. He changed his hand seal and a golden light flew out. A vigorous soul energy shrouded the dragon armor token from between his eyebrows. Boom! The golden dragon sword. 2 golden dragon shadows floated out of the token and floated in front of Su-yi, one on his left and one on his right. Roar! A low hiss instantly stirred up spatial ripples in front of them, and the 2 small golden dragons each spat out a golden light. The golden light converged from the 2 sides to the middle, and in less than 2 breaths of time, it converged to form a picture. What is this? Su-yi stood up and looked at the picture with his eyes wide open. 2 sharp lights shot out from his deep eyes. He was full of doubts. Whoosh! Chi Feihong, who was like a wisp of smoke, emitted radiance all over his body and floated out of Su-yi's body. His turbid pupils radiated light in all directions as he fixed his gaze on the strange scene in front of him. The 2 of them carefully studied the markings and patterns on the picture. The doubts on their faces were gradually replaced by shock. On the picture there were mountains and rivers. Not only were there endless coastlines, but there were also endless mountain ranges. The shapes of every continent and ocean were carved on it. It could be said that the most detailed information of the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean was on this picture. Some of the continents were marked with dozens of light spots. On one of the mountain ranges in the Chaos region, there was a small golden dragon symbol that shone brightly. Golden Dragon Mystery Land. This is the detailed map of the Tianan continent. Chi Feihong and Su-yi looked at each other and gasped. Although the map of the Tianan continent was not easy to find, it was definitely a treasure to be able to record so many secrets of the Tianan continent in such detail. Chapter 2102. Su-yi carefully looked at the geomancy map with incomparable concentration. The densely packed light spots marked on it almost covered every continent. Looking from afar, the halo flickered brilliantly like the stars. For the Long family to record these places, the Long family must have sent people to investigate or verify them. Following that, Su-yi moved his gaze inch by inch according to the water and terrain. Immediately, his trembling gaze landed on the extremely familiar barbaric demon forest. There was a towering demon Azura mountain above it. The lone peak of the demon Azura mountain was engraved with the words, Heavenly Demon Remnant. On the other side of the Chaos realm, there was an extremely small area engraved with the words, Myriad Spirit Heavenly Demon. Both names had 2 golden dragon runes intersecting each other, indicating that the heavenly demon remnant had been destroyed or targeted by the Long family. Damn it! This Long family is really arrogant. Looking up slightly, Su Yi's brows immediately became serious. That day on the Demon Mountain, the two spear-wielding and saber-wielding elders on the sacred mountain seemed to be related to the Long family. Scenes of tragic scenes were reflected in Su Yi's mind. Unconsciously, Su Yi's face became gloomy. His soul slowly spread out and looked at the geomancy map. After a round of investigation, Su Yi found that the soul energy in these two places was very majestic. At a glance, it was obvious that there was an addition at the end. Stroking his chin, Su Yi was pleasantly surprised. With the detailed marks of the Long family on the barbarian demon continent, Su Yi's understanding of the Long family had improved. Glancing at Qi Feihong, who was standing at the side, he bent over and pointed his yellowed index finger at the mark of the sea. At the same time, he also cast his gaze in Su Yi's direction. Tianfeng ruins? Su Yi looked at the mark of a certain place in the sea and nodded. That day in front of the Yutian Palace, Shangguan Tianqian had said that Duanmu Qingtian had found the Tianfeng sword intent and the domain pearl near the sea. If the Yun family comes back and has time, we should go to the Tianfeng ruins. It must want to go home too. Su Yi closed his eyes. Inside the mysterious space, the blood demon killing god sword began to stir. It was as if it had sensed something and was whistling in the air. With that, Su Yi began to carefully search for the location of the aristocratic families. His palm moved from top to bottom, and his gaze followed his fingertips. On the dragon armor geomancy map, the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 ocean could be seen. The 6 continents were not far from each other, and the central province was located in the center of the entire map, forming a rectangular territory. With the central continent as the boundary, from top to bottom, from left to right, they were the Boundless Continent, the Taiqing Continent, and the Divine Tiger Continent. Below the central plains were the Sky Dragon Continent, the Taihang Continent, and the Immortal Sword Continent. Su Yi's current location, Yun Province, was already at the top left corner of the map, which was in the northwest direction. The terrain was extremely high, away from the mainland. On the other hand, the remote Yuzhou was diagonal to Yunzhou. It was located at the bottom right corner of the map, in the southeast direction. If one were to view the 6 continents as a whole, the left side of the continent would be the endless Sky Sea region, while the right side would be the vast Sky Sea region. The Chaos region was located between the Central Province's eastern continent and the Endless Sky Sea region. It was located above the Endless Sky Sea region, like a lone island in the sea. Among the 5 aristocratic families, the Endless Sky Sea city could be found at a glance. It was located in the Endless Sky Sea region. However, the size of the sea region was incomparable to that of the continent. Even if the Sky Barbarian martial artists knew the location, they would not be able to find the underwater kingdom. Aristocratic families. Aristocratic families. Su Yi's gaze swept across the map. After a long while, he finally saw the word sword and thunder. The Myriad Sword Alliance is located in the valleys east of the Immortal Sword Continent, while the Thunderfire Sacred Temple is located in the Taiqing Continent. Su Yi tilted his head and exclaimed in surprise before continuing his search. Found it. Su Yi pointed at the sea region between the Boundless Continent and the Chaos region. He said softly, "This should be the approximate location of the Yun family." Qi Feihong looked in the direction of the voice. Seeing that the word Yun was not written on the map, he asked doubtfully, "Are you sure?" Su Yi nodded. 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. The corner of his mouth curled into a smile as he continued speaking. The Long family and the Yun family are sworn enemies. Among the aristocratic families, only the Yun family's location is not marked. There are only a few white clouds here on the entire map. This means that the Long family does not know the exact location of the ancient cloud Immortal Sect. Following Su Yi's line of sight, Chi Feihong looked at the few white clouds floating above the endless sky-sea region. It happened to be located at the intersection between the boundless continent and the chaos region. It's definitely here. Otherwise, why would Long Ye give me this map? After that, a trace of a smile flashed on the wrinkled face of Chi Feihong that was a firm believer, and he stroked his beard and said lightly, "Kid, you're really extremely lucky. That little girl was even willing to give you such a treasure." Chi Feihong raised his eyebrows and said jokingly, "However, she also gave you something more important." "What?" Su Yi was stunned and a little embarrassed. Long Ye had only given him a dragon armor geomancy map. What else was there? Chi Feihong felt all over his body. He rolled his eyes and scolded, "You little brat, someone likes you when you are so stupid. She gave you her heart. Didn't you see that the 4 aristocratic families are here but the Long family is not? She doesn't want you to risk your life at the Long family. This is to protect you." Su Yi finally reacted. He stared blankly at the dragon armor geomancy map for a few seconds, then kept it and did not speak anymore. "Let's go." Su Yi exhaled lightly and reinvigorated himself. The primordial qi under his feet rose sharply. Following behind, Chi Feihong shrugged helplessly and entered Su Yi's body. According to the geomancy map, the approximate location of the Yun family was above the endless sky-sea region, near the border of the Chaos region and the boundless continent. The Chaos region was originally a lawless zone. There were many strong people, and there were no rules to speak of. The teleportation formation was also not connected to the outside world. It was sometimes good and sometimes bad. However, for Su Yi, who was rushing back to the Chaos region, it was on the way. Along the way, Su Yi thought about the current situation. The 2 Long family members that he killed were only deacons. The Infinite Sect could find excuses to shirk responsibility. Long Ye would also secretly speak up for the Infinite Sect. Su Yi did not have to worry about the Long family against the Infinite Sect for the time being. As for the Yutian Palace, from the Long family's geomancy map, it could be seen that there was no mark. This meant that Draconis did not have the intention to kill them for the time being. Moreover, there was Xiao Man and Duanmu Qintian in the palace. Su Yi could breathe a sigh of relief. The demon-subduing sect was a power that Su Yi had secretly gathered. The Long family did not know about it, so there was no need to worry. Only the Bawang sect in the Chaos region had a golden pattern hovering above it. It was obvious that the Long family had their eyes on the sect that he had single-handedly founded. Merciless West and Impermanence Fairy did not send anyone over. This could only mean that the current situation was still manageable. But if this drags on, I'm afraid there will be changes. Thinking of this, Su Yi began to feel anxious. He hoped that he could leave the Yun family quickly and rush back to the Chaos region. Burning with anxiety, he used the Infinite Sect's teleportation formation to reach the nearest boundless continent. Chapter 2103. The Wuji sect was located on the Wuji continent. Within the 6 continents, 3 continents, and 1 sea, the entire continent was considered to be in the middle. In terms of strength, the Wuji sect, Taiqing sect, and Immortal Sword sect were considered to be in the middle of the 4 sects. Using the teleportation formation to reach the Wuji continent, Su Yi walked on the road of the Wuji continent. Everywhere he looked, there were plants and flowers, and the air was filled with water vapor. Although it could not be compared to the extreme spiritual energy in Yunzhou, it was much better than the barren Yuzhou. In the distance, Mount Dai rose and fell. Clouds danced in the air like a fairy from a painting, complementing the boundless land of endless poverty and happiness. The capital city next to the teleportation formation was the most prosperous city in the Wuji continent, Ancient Moon City. Just as he walked into the city, the bustling streets and the endless stream of people made Su Yi think of Zhongzhou. Su Yi lowered his head and walked on the road in a black robe. His gaze fell on the warriors and itinerant cultivators. Long Xing probably wouldn't have thought that you would borrow his geomancy map to go to the Yun family, Qi Feihong said with a low laugh. I was just lucky. Su Yi smiled. At this moment, he slightly restrained his aura. After the Tianfeng ranking tournament, Su Yi's name was printed on the 8 reverends list and spread throughout the Tianyan continent. Almost no one knew that he had returned to the Tianyan continent, and Su Yi did not want to expose himself here. Now, Su Yi wanted to find a place to rest for a while before going out to ask about the ancient Cloud Immortal sect. Walking casually, Su Yi walked in front of a simple and solemn building. The words Golden Pill Workshop were written on it. From the exterior decoration, it was richly ornamented and had an extraordinary style. Su Yi guessed that this was the biggest medicine shop in Guyu City. Let's go in and take a look. Although the elixir that Master needs is rare, it is not impossible to find. When he was collecting herbs in Yunzhou, Su Yi had been looking for herbs that could restore Suruga's appearance. They were the channel-opening vine, snow tobacco, and spirit-nourishing mud. Among them, the spirit-nourishing mud was the most precious. These 3 things were not produced in the Cloud Prefecture, so it was normal that they could not be found in the Cloud Prefecture. However, just because there were no such things in the Cloud Prefecture, it didn't mean that there were none elsewhere. Sometimes, treasures were hidden in such inconspicuous places. As for the glazed heavenly stamen that he had been longing for, it was rumored that this kind of treasure that could restore one's soul had already disappeared 10,000 years ago. Su Yi did not expect to be able to buy it with money. With the corner of his mouth raised, Su Yi stepped into the store. Immediately, a thick medicinal fragrance assaulted his face, and the abundant aura poured into his heart. The relaxed and comfortable feeling made his pores open. Casually looking to the left and right, there were walls of medicine boxes that were several meters tall. It was quite imposing. In the middle of the pharmacy was a long counter with grinding tools and other tools neatly arranged on it. It was simple and elegant. Is the boss here? Su Yi lowered the brim of his hat and changed his voice. The voice that was mixed with Yuan Qi was incomparably vigorous, directly passing through the gap in the wall and transmitted to the back hall. After a long while, there was no reply from the pharmacy. Su Yi was stunned. Could it be that there was no one here? But the door of the store was clearly open. Strange, there is no one in this pharmacy? Qi Feihong in his mind was puzzled. Such a big pharmacy actually did not have a shopkeeper, and no mister came to greet him. It was really a big mystery. Looks like we came at the wrong time, Su Yi said softly in his robe. Immediately, Su Yi lightly shook his head. There was actually someone who did not come to greet him when he was open for business. He bitterly smiled and prepared to leave. Ancient Moon City also had a branch of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Su Yi thought that it was possible to directly go to the Spirit Treasures Pavilion to buy things. Why don't you go to the Heaven Manipulation Branch Palace and ask? Qi Feihong suddenly thought of this. Su Yi curled his lips. Why didn't he think of the Heaven Manipulation Branch Palace? Even if it was troublesome, Su Yi would definitely not go there. Not answering Qi Feihong's question, Su Yi lightly smiled in his black robe and prepared to walk towards the door. Only to hear a simple and honest voice from the inner hall. It was obvious that the owner was busy and somewhat anxious. Customer, feel free to look around. If you like something, you can wait here. If you don't like it, you can just leave. These words were extremely domineering. Su Yi could not help but smile. The tone of an old man in a pharmacy was so domineering. Could it be that all the medicinal ingredients in the world are in your home? Su Yi frowned, his heart was already somewhat angry. He heard Qi Feihong say, "There is something wrong with this store. I notice that there are several medicine boxes on the wall. They are all medicinal ingredients that are rarely seen in the market. There is no one guarding this place, but the shopkeeper is not worried at all." Looking towards the direction of the voice, Su Yi walked towards the wall of medicine boxes. According to the guidance of Qi Feihong's soul energy, he approached a medicine box with the words Purple Silkworm Lingji written on it. According to Qi Feihong's description, the purple silkworm Lingji was an important ingredient in refining a high-grade profound-grade medicinal pill, the Extreme Purple Soul Protection Pill. It could be sold for an astonishingly high price of 5 6th-grade origin stones in the black market. Shortly after, the corner of Su Yi's mouth twitched slightly. He secretly urged his soul energy, preparing to pry into the quality of the purple silkworm Lingji. Just as he was about to perceive the entire appearance of the Lingji, he was gently repelled by a huge energy fluctuation. What a powerful energy protection! No wonder this shopkeeper is so fearless! Withdrawing his palm, Su Yi's eyes flashed with surprise as he clicked his tongue in wonder. His soul energy that was comparable to a Yuan domain realm cultivator's couldn't penetrate it. Immediately, he began to observe this inconspicuous shop again. This shop wasn't simple at all. Walking back and forth in front of the wall of medicine boxes, Su Yi soon found many rare medicinal herbs. Moreover, without exception, all of them were protected by a powerful energy. Some of the medicine boxes even had faint energy fluctuations outside them. There's something special about it. Let's wait here for the shopkeeper. Who knows, we might really find something. Su Yi lowered the brim of his hat and continued to search the sea of medicine boxes in the corner, hoping to find the whereabouts of the channel opening vine and other medicinal herbs. Boom! At this moment, Su Yi, whose back was facing the door, sensed two figures leisurely walking over. As soon as they entered, a gentle female voice slowly sounded. Her tone carried a hint of loftiness and arrogance. "Shopkeeper, come out quickly!" Glancing at the two people behind him, Su Yi immediately sneered and said in his heart, "This woman is always so rude wherever she goes." "Who are they?" Qi Feihong looked at the two young ladies who came in. They had elegant appearances, but they carried a natural arrogance. His expression changed slightly. The precious granddaughter of the Boundless Continent's Imperial Palace Master, Dan Honggong, of the Imperial Palace, Dan Rushuan. Su Yi rubbed his nose. He still remembered that during the Imperial Palace Soul competition, he had fled in shame in front of everyone. It was also because of his face that only Dan Honggong of the Boundless Continent's Imperial Palace Master came to Su Yi's wedding. Chapter 2104. Because of the awkward atmosphere, Dan Honggong only drank a cup of wine at the wedding banquet before hurrying back to the Boundless Continent. After listening to Su Yi's story, Qi Feihong was overjoyed and laughed. "So there's such a story. Dan Honggong, that brat, boasted about his alchemy skills when he was young and looked down on everyone. Now, his granddaughter has perfectly inherited his personality. So, you know why I don't want to go to the Limitless Branch Palace." Su Yi rolled his eyes and shrugged helplessly. At this moment, Su Yi glanced back and noticed the woman who was traveling with Dan Ruxian. At first glance, she was beautiful and elegant. She was wearing a light yellow shirt with simple patterns carved on it, and the symbol inlaid on her left chest was a fiery sun slowly rising from the intersection of the sea and the sky. The light of the water was ethereal, and the golden sun was overflowing with colors, secretly emitting energy fluctuations. Su Yi's soul suddenly tightened as a familiar feeling appeared in his mind. Limitless sect? Su Yi's brows twitched slightly as he said in a low voice. "Yes, it's the Limitless sect." Qi Feihong stared at the woman beside Dan Ruxian and also recognized that she was from the Limitless sect. Previously, Qi Feihong had told Su Yi that most of the forces in the One Mountain, 2 religions, 3 sects, and 4 factions were powerful on the surface, but secretly relied on aristocratic families to survive. Among the upper-tier forces, the original Sacred Mountain, the current Divine Tiger sect, and the Heavenly Dragon sect had countless unclear relationships with the Long family. It was said that the Immortal Sword sect had always wanted to establish a relationship with the Myriad Sword Alliance and had been flirting with each other every day. The Taiching sect had been secretly in contact with the Thunder Fire Temple and had a very close relationship. As for the Gemini sect and the Demon Subduing sect, because they were located on the sea, they were very far away from these core continents. However, as long as the aristocratic families or upper-tier forces summoned them, regardless of whether the matter was good or bad, they would accept it completely. Therefore, their status was the lowest among the top 10 forces. The remaining 3 were the Limitless sect, the Taixing sect, and the Limitless sect. Su-Yi slowly raised his forehead, and a cold light flashed in his deep eyes. He said in a low voice, "The Limitless sect has the Golden Dragon's bloodline and has formed their own sect. Other than the Long family, they are not afraid of anyone. The Taihang sect was independent and only sought stability. The Long family didn't even bother to look at the lower-level forces. Only the neutral Limitless sect was able to quietly establish itself as a middle power. It was not easy at all. I didn't expect to meet him so soon." Qi Feihong also smiled and said, "It's hard to say whether the Limitless sect has a force behind it or not. However, I heard that the Limitless sect was banned by Driver Heavenly Palace in the past. Now that the juniors are traveling with Dan Ruxian, I can't help but think more about it." Hearing this, Su-Yi, who was in the black robe, remained silent. He secretly restrained his aura and listened attentively to the conversation between the 2 women behind him. "What happened? Where's the shopkeeper? Come out. Someone wants to buy herbs." Dan Ruxian became even angrier when she saw that no one was in the store to welcome customers. Mu Ling, who was standing beside her, smiled elegantly. She pulled Dan Ruxian and motioned for her to lower her voice. "Sister Mu Ling, do you think the Golden Pill Plaza will have the herbs I want if there's no one here?" Dan Ruxian asked with a frown. "Don't worry, our Limitless sect used to buy herbs here. The shopkeeper's temper is a bit strange, but he does have a lot of good things." The woman called Mu Ling comforted Dan Ruxian with a smile. "Don't you want to extend your brother's meridians? There must be the herbs you want here. Don't you have the patience?" Hearing this, Dan Ruxian lightly stomped the ground and said shyly, "I don't know what's going on recently. Driver Heavenly Palace is also in short supply of pills and herbs. All the herbs in the Limitless world seem to have evaporated overnight. I don't even have the herbs to refine pills. Someone in the Limitless world must be buying pills and herbs in large quantities." Su-Yi, who was hidden in the black robe, revealed a sharp look in his eyes. In the corner, Su-Yi's energy fluctuated slightly, which attracted Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling's attention. The 2 immediately fell silent. At the door, Mu Ling's expression changed. She glanced at Su-Yi in the black robe and gently pulled Dan Ruxian to the counter. "Shopkeeper Qin, Mu Ling of the Limitless sect requests an audience. Please take the time to meet." Mu Ling smiled slightly. After a while, the 2 of them waited in the front hall for a long time. Dan Ruxian's expression became more and more impatient. Suddenly, a fat figure flew out from the inner hall. He had a big nose, and there were plates on both sides of his nose. His face was covered in sweat, and he was obviously busy. Shopkeeper Qin wiped the sweat from his forehead and took a deep breath. He smiled at Mu Ling and said, "Little Ling, I'm just too busy today. If you want rare herbs, why don't you come another day?" It's rare to see Shopkeeper Qin so busy. Did something happen recently? Shopkeeper Qin chuckled. He casually picked up the account book on the counter and fanned it with all his might. Mu Ling smiled helplessly. She then looked at Dan Ruxian and said apologetically, "Little sister Ruxian, it seems we came at a bad time. Why don't we go somewhere else to look?" Hearing this, Dan Ruxian pouted. She looked at Shopkeeper Qin and said sternly, "Little shopkeeper, what a big show of extravagance! You made us wait for so long, and as soon as you came out, you drove us out without even saying what herbs you wanted. Is this how you do business?" As soon as she finished speaking, Dan Ruxian's soul energy surged out. Dan Ruxian's early fourth-rank soul was quite strong. A fierce gale of energy quickly blew around her, rustling the account book on the counter and sending the pages flying. Su-yi noticed that this fat shopkeeper Qin's eyes were calm and unperturbed. He wasn't frightened by Dan Ruxian's aura at all. Su-yi and Qi Feihong couldn't help but cheer. "Little Ling, is this one of your people?" Shopkeeper Qin moved his huge body slightly, not even looking at Dan Ruxian as he asked casually. Mu Ling was a little embarrassed. She shifted her gaze from Dan Ruxian to Shopkeeper Qin and said in a low voice, "She's my little sister. She doesn't know any better. Shopkeeper Qin, please don't blame her." "Big Sister Mu Ling, why are you apologizing to him? He was in the wrong to begin with." Dan Ruxian was even angrier and clenched her teeth. "The everlasting sex new girl has quite a temper." Shopkeeper Qin shook his head unhurriedly. He brushed off the dust on his robe and blew on it. He lowered his head and smiled. Dan Ruxian immediately raised her noble face and looked at Shopkeeper Qin arrogantly. She shouted, "Who's from the everlasting sect?" "I'm Dan Ruxian of the Heaven Controlling Palace." "Heaven Controlling Palace? Dan Hong Gong's Heaven Controlling Palace?" Shopkeeper Qin stared at Dan Ruxian, his eyes rippling slightly. "How about it? Are you scared?" Dan Ruxian raised her eyebrows, a disdainful smile on her lip. It was obvious that Dan Ruxian thought she had scared this pill store shopkeeper by mentioning Dan Hong Gong and Heaven Controlling Palace. Chapter 2105. But in the next second, Su-yi and Qi Feihong were slightly startled and couldn't help but frown. At the counter, Shopkeeper Qin's face suddenly turned cold when he heard the words Imperial Celestial Palace. His lips curled downwards and his eyes shone with an ominous light as he stared at Dan Ruxian. A chilling aura erupted from Shopkeeper Qin's body, and a trace of panic flashed through Dan Ruxian's arrogant eyes. Even Su-yi, who was standing in the corner, could feel the suppressed anger coming from Shopkeeper Qin. His cultivation wasn't high, but he could erupt with such power due to anger. Su-yi's heart couldn't help but tremble. Pung! Behind the counter, Shopkeeper Qin's fat body lay on the counter. His two thick and strong arms were like huge rocks bombarding the counter. The ground stone mortar immediately shattered into pieces and scattered on the high platform. The sudden surge of energy shocked Mu Ling and Dan Ruxian. Shopkeeper Qin's face twitched and he coldly said, "Mu Ling, I'll give you 3 seconds to take this little girl out. If she offends us again, Golden Pill Plaza will cut off our supply to Limitless Sect." "Shopkeeper Qin, what are you doing?" His serious tone caused a trace of shock to flash across Mu Ling's elegant and quiet face. Golden Pill Plaza had always been Limitless Sect's largest partner in purchasing pills. Because of its ample stock, high quality, and considerate service, it had always had a good relationship with the elders and deacons of Limitless Sect. Therefore, when she learned that Dan Ruxian wanted to refine pills for Limitless Sect's Mu Renjie to expand his meridians and increase his cultivation, and that Imperial Celestial Palace was also lacking pills like Limitless Sect, Mu Ling's first thought was to come to Golden Pill Plaza. Shopkeeper Qin glanced at Dan Ruxian with slight contempt and said, "That's right, little Ling, from now on, don't bring anyone from Imperial Celestial Palace here. Golden Pill Plaza doesn't welcome them." In the corner, Su-yi's heart sank when he heard this and he muttered to himself, "Does Imperial Celestial Palace have some grudge with him? Imperial Celestial Palace has never made enemies with anyone." A small Golden Pill Plaza dared to contradict Limitless Sect and look down on Imperial Celestial Palace. Su-yi slowly raised his eyebrows and a light flashed in his eyes. He was once again curious about Shopkeeper Qin and the power behind this pill plaza. "You dare to look down on Imperial Celestial Palace. Many of your pills are also refined by Imperial Celestial Palace. You're arrogant." Dan Ruxian's face flushed red. She didn't expect the shopkeeper of a small pill shop to not give face to the everlasting sect and look down on the imperial heavenly palace. She's SSSS, S's TSSS? RR. UTSS, teat of TS makes sell. Sell. TS sell. Tli of S of dove. Of it. It is. Unfortunately, all the spirit herbs and pills in the boundless world are with me today. I won't sell them to you. Shopkeeper Chen's fat fingers poked Dan Ruxian. He rolled his eyes and rested his chin on his meaty palm. He said in a carefree manner, "What can you do to me? You're courting death." Hearing this, Dan Ruxian took 2 steps back and extended her palms forward. 2 bright, blazing balls of fire appeared in front of her palms, illuminating the surroundings. "You fatty, do you really think Command Heavenly Palace is easy to provoke? Today, I will burn down your lousy shop. Let's see what you're going to sell." As soon as she finished speaking, the ball of fire in Dan Ruxian's hand expanded once more. The small space around her seemed to shatter, creating terrifying ripples. Dan Ruxian's soul energy covered a large area of space in front of her. Her aura was vigorous, and her killing intent was overflowing. A bloody battle was about to begin. "Little girl, I advise you to control your temper. If you want to behave atrociously, you should look at where you are. If you set down this fire, can you bear the consequences?" Shopkeeper Chen also restrained his expression. He did not panic at all. His fat hand touched the counter and his left hand lightly tapped on the counter. A disdainful sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. "This Shopkeeper Chen has a backup plan. If this girl doesn't stop now, Command Heavenly Palace will be in trouble." Qi Feihong saw through Su Yi's mind clearly and chuckled. Su Yi also turned around at this time. A cold light flashed through his black robe. Command Heavenly Palace was still his. No matter how domineering, arrogant, and rude Dan Ruxian was, the boundless branch palace could not be unlucky. Secretly, Su Yi formed a hand seal in his black robe. Turbulent origin qi condensed from the great void energy vortex. He stared at the mechanism under the counter. "Ruxian, what are you doing? Let go." Mu Ling's eyes were anxious. A silver dagger had appeared in her hand at some point. She slashed down, and a strong wind whistled, cutting the soul energy in front of Dan Ruxian. The curtain of fire dissipated, and the soul energy suddenly burst out. The rebound force forced Dan Ruxian 3 steps back. Her face flushed red as she looked at Mu Ling in shock. Mu Ling blocked Dan Ruxian with both hands. The latter frowned and said, "Sister Mu Ling, what are you doing? This damn fatty can't beat me. Do you think Command Heavenly Palace is afraid of him?" Ignoring Dan Ruxian, Mu Ling apologized to Shopkeeper Chen and said respectfully, "Limitless Sect has always had a close relationship with Golden Pill Plaza. I didn't know about the relationship between Golden Pill Plaza and Command Heavenly Palace. I apologize on behalf of Ruxian for my rudeness today. Please forgive my rudeness, Shopkeeper Chen." Mu Ling's gaze fell on the sleeve of Shopkeeper Chen hidden under the counter. Her eyes were solemn, and she did not dare to be careless. Su Yi also saw this scene and nodded inwardly. This Mu Ling knew a thing or two. At the same time, Su Yi was once again certain that Golden Pill Plaza was not simple. It was very likely that it had the answer he wanted to know. In this stalemate, in this tense and strange atmosphere, Shopkeeper Chen finally opened his mouth to speak, his voice cold and stern. "Little Ling, go out. What materials do you need? After a while, when my store is loose, I'll have someone send them over. Today, for your sake, I'll take her away." Mu Ling's face immediately relaxed, and her eyes were filled with relief. If she had to choose again, Mu Ling would never have brought this little princess to Golden Pill Plaza. "Shopkeeper Chen, sorry to disturb you." Mu Ling immediately bowed and turned to Dan Ruxian. She gave a reproachful look and said, "Let's go." I'll think of a way to get the materials for you. Don't cause trouble for me here. Dan Ruxian's gaze returned to Mu Ling. She pursed her red lips and glared fiercely at the pharmacy before nodding and saying, "All right, I'll remember it. Sister Mu Ling, let's go." With that, she turned and walked toward the door. Behind her, shopkeeper Qin greeted her warmly. "What would you like to order?" Chapter 2106. Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling turned to look at the black-robed figure in front of the counter. Shopkeeper Qin was greeting the black-robed man in the corner. Mu Ling looked solemn. Judging from his aura, this black-robed man was definitely an expert that could not be ignored. Therefore, Mu Ling and Dan Ruxian had chosen to keep a respectful distance from the black-robed man when they first entered the medicinal workshop. After the argument just now, the two of them had completely forgotten about the existence of this mysterious man. Immediately, two pairs of strange eyes fell on Sui. Dan Ruxian's expression darkened when she saw shopkeeper Qin change his cold gaze and become incomparably warm to the mysterious man. She felt even more uncomfortable. Sui shook his head and smiled bitterly. Did shopkeeper Qin learn how to change his expression? The Golden Pill workshop was not simple. He could not be led around by this shrewd shopkeeper. He deliberately lowered his voice and said, "I didn't expect shopkeeper Qin to be so busy. I think I'll leave you alone." With that, Sui shook his robe and turned to leave. Shopkeeper Qin saw this and hurriedly waved his hand. He frowned and said loudly, "Sir, please wait. When I was in the inner hall, I felt that an expert had come to visit. Unfortunately, the shop was too busy today, and I've made you wait for so long. I apologize for making you angry." Sui stopped in his tracks with his back facing shopkeeper Qin. The corners of his mouth rose slightly under his black robe. "I just noticed an expert staring at a few of my rare elixir boxes for a long time. Could it be that you need something? With your cultivation, if the Golden Pill Workshop can help you with anything, we will definitely do our best." Shopkeeper Qin added, his voice sincere and sincere. "This guy's eyes are really sharp. It seems that we have neglected the space rules of the Golden Pill Workshop." Qi Feihong chuckled and sent a telepathic message to Sui. Suyi's heart sank. This shopkeeper looked simple and honest, but he was actually very shrewd. Even though he had concealed his aura and entered the shop, shopkeeper Qin had still seen through him. Shopkeeper Qin probably already knew that he was an origin ancestor, which was why his attitude had changed. An origin ancestor would be treated as a distinguished guest wherever he went in the Tianyan continent. It had to be said that shopkeeper Qin definitely had his own uniqueness to be able to control the largest pill workshop in the boundless continent. At the entrance, the two did not walk far away. They stopped 2 steps away from the doorway and watched the shop. Looking at shopkeeper Qin's harmless appearance, Dan Ruxian became even angrier. Mu Ling held her back. Inside the shop, Sui raised his eyelids and turned his head. A glimmer of light shot out from his bright and deep eyes, and a voice mixed with vigorous vitality came out from the black robe. "If that's the case, I need the channel-opening vine, snow tobacco, and spirit-nourishing mud. Do you have them here?" A Middle-earth middle. The guest's first move was so shocking. How is it? Do you have it?" Sui snorted. He stared at shopkeeper Qin's face, suppressing the little anticipation in his heart. Behind him, Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling looked at each other. Dan Ruxian frowned and said, "Vein opening vine. Sister Mu Ling, I need it too. This person wants the same herb as me." "I know." Mu Ling looked at Dan Ruxian and gestured for her to calm down. "Phew." Dan Ruxian bit her lips. Anger rose in her eyes. She gritted her teeth so hard that they creaked. At this moment, shopkeeper Qin noticed that Mu Ling and Dan Ruxian had not gone far. He suddenly shouted, "Fine. You must be an expert. My shop is willing to make friends with you. I have both the vein-opening vine and the snow tobacco. You can come and get them tomorrow morning. It's just that it's really hard to get spiritual mud, so please look elsewhere. How about it?" Hearing this, Sui was overjoyed. He could only ask the Lingbao Hall to help him find the rest. He nodded and said, "Thank you so much. As for the price?" Shopkeeper Chin rubbed his hands and said happily, "Of course the price is fair. 5 6-star origin stones each. It shouldn't be a problem for you, right?" Sui thought for a moment. He would either give the origin stones to the Bawang sect or use them to improve his cultivation. The only thing he had left were some 6-star origin stone crystal boxes, which were worth several origin stones. He gritted his teeth and agreed. "I'll deliver the goods tomorrow." "Deal." Shopkeeper Chin didn't hesitate and nodded with a smile at Sui's back. With that, Sui walked out of the door. His eyes met with Dan Ruxian's for less than a second before he left like a gust of wind. "Quick! Follow him!" Dan Ruxian's eyes flickered and she glared at Shopkeeper Chin. Shopkeeper Chin flew into the back hall again. Walking on the street, Sui chuckled under his black robe when he sensed the two women following him. He used the shaking 100 steps at full speed. His black robe fluttered. He seemed to be drifting, but in fact, his speed was as fast as lightning. In the endless stream of people, Sui purposely chose places with high traffic. In the narrow gap, Sui flashed past like a black stream of wind, quickly disappearing into the sea of people, without a trace. "Damn it! Is this person a rabbit? He's so fast." When she saw that Sui was nowhere to be seen, Dan Ruxian stomped her foot and cursed angrily. Initially, the two of them wanted to chase after Sui and ask him to sell the vein-opening vine or ask him to buy one more and pay him a sum of money. But now, he had disappeared without a trace. They didn't even have the chance to open their mouth. This person is so strong. His movement technique is even more amazing. Mu Ling's eyes flickered. She was also at the 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm, but she couldn't catch up. When did such a top-notch expert appear in the boundless continent? His strength was comparable to the chief elder of the sect. Where did this person come from? Mu Ling looked at the crowd in a daze. Beside her, Dan Ruxian's face was red and her eyes were cold. She looked back at the Golden Pill Workshop and said angrily, "That damn fatty is purposely angering us. He didn't sell it to us, but to that person." Mu Ling shook her head and looked at Dan Ruxian. "What should we do? We can't go back, right? The Golden Pill Workshop is not simple. Even the chief elders of the sect are wary of the Golden Pill Workshop. Let's not get into trouble again." Mu Ling pulled Dan Ruxian's arm and promised to get the vein-opening vine for her. Dan Ruxian shook her head and said coldly, "Humph. This is no longer a matter of elixirs. The humiliation of the Heavenly Palace is not something that can be compensated with a single herb. Sister Mu Ling, I'm going back to the palace." Chapter 2107. Are you going to let Lord Honggong know? The power behind Golden Pill Workshop can't be underestimated. Mu Ling's eyes widened as she stared at the girl in front of her. She muttered in her heart, "This girl is always doing whatever she wants. Don't make this a big deal. If she does, it'll be really troublesome. I won't tell grandfather." Ever since he came back from the Imperial Soul competition, he's been in a bad mood every day. He's focused on pill refinement and doesn't see anyone. There aren't any herbs left in the branch palace for pill refinement. He doesn't even care. Dan Ruxian pouted. Her expression suddenly became gloomy and her crescent brows furrowed. "It's all that Su Yi's fault. He made our limitless branch palace lose face in the headquarters. I really hate him." After saying that, Dan Ruxian also calmed down and thought of a solution. Frowning, Dan Ruxian stared at the ground. Suddenly, her eyes brightened. She raised her head and pointed at the sky. That's right, Golden Pill Workshop is stockpiling pills. Even Imperial Soul Palace doesn't have herbs and Limitless Sect doesn't have pills. If this goes on, it'll be a mess. We'll go back and find some people. We'll go back and tell Brother Renjie. What do you want to do now? Mu Ling shook her head and sighed. Her little sister was really a headache. Fatty Chin asked the mysterious person to come back tomorrow. After the mysterious person left, he went into the inner hall again. He'll be free tomorrow, which means Golden Pill Workshop will definitely ship out the pills tonight. What do you mean? Mu Ling's eyes flashed. Uncover Golden Pill Workshop's conspiracy. Find out who they're stockpiling pills for and what they're trying to do with them. Then, let Fatty Chin give us the herbs I want and the pills the Limitless Sect needs. While we're at it, we'll teach that damn fatty a lesson. Dan Ruxian raised her chin proudly. When she said the last sentence, she smiled brightly. This. Mu Ling frowned and hesitated. Don't hesitate. Sister Mu Ling, don't you want to know what Golden Pill Workshop is doing behind the scenes? This is related to the Limitless Land. Dan Ruxian looked at Mu Ling and blinked. Mu Ling's Mu Ling translation looking at Renjie. Mu Ling translation. I'll go back and I'll tell Brother Renjie and see what he has to say. Great. Dan Ruxian immediately grabbed Mu Ling's arm and turned to look at Golden Pill Workshop. She shouted arrogantly, Fatty Chin, Shopkeeper Chin, let's see what happens tonight. How to Renjie to translation. Rento to Ido translation. The crowd surged, and the two women's silhouettes fled in two different directions at the same time. At the same time, Su-yi, who was leaning against a wall in an alley, had heard every word of Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling's conversation. After of, look. This little girl is bossy and domineering, but her guess is right. Shopkeeper Chin will definitely take action tonight. Chi Feihong's faint voice came from the depths of his heart. Su-yi raised his head and put his hands behind his head. Looking at the clouds in the sky, he chuckled and said in a low voice, Then, I'll see you tonight. I also want to know the secret behind Golden Pill Workshop. Immediately, Su-yi cast a deep gaze at the closed door of Golden Pill Workshop. A cold light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Now, the pills of the boundless world were all gathered in the Golden Pill Workshop, which force was so powerful that the Golden Pill Workshop was willing to offend the Limitless School and the Heavenly Palace just to supply them. Thinking of this, the corners of Su-yi's mouth twitched. Then, the space around his body vibrated, and he disappeared from the alley. At night, the stars gradually rose. The dawn moon acted as a curtain and a gentle breeze blew. The mountain forest that was as black as ink was quiet and elegant. The cries of the crawling demon beasts resounded through the sky and scattered the birds in the forest. Around ancient Moon City, the mountain range was tall and rugged. Dreamy clouds drifted leisurely like silk circling above the mountains. In the distance, the outline of ancient Moon City's vast city walls was particularly clear under the moonlight. At this moment, Su-yi was sitting cross-legged on a high ground, like an old tree with roots, concentrating on cultivating. He was circulating the mantra of the Origin Supreme technique. The moonlight sprinkled on Su-yi's body, and a faint glow immediately enveloped his body. Under the moonlight, Su-yi's skin emitted a strange light like warm jade. Chi Feihong's gaze was fixed on the mountain road below, quietly waiting for Shopkeeper Chin to leave the city. During the day, Su-yi had already investigated the surrounding terrain of Guyu City, as well as the closing time. After investigating, he discovered that this was the only way out of Guyu City at night. There was really a powerful force behind Golden Pill Workshop, and the person who came to receive the pills was definitely not ordinary. During the day, if an expert entered ancient Moon City and entered Golden Pill Pavilion, the spies of the various forces in the city would immediately notice. Therefore, Su Yi and Qi Feihong were certain that shopkeeper Qin would definitely not conduct such a large transaction in the city. If they wanted to catch shopkeeper Qin, they just had to keep an eye on this road. Under the moonlight, Su Yi quietly circulated the art of driving the heavens, and everything within 100 miles was under his control. In his wide and tough meridians, Yuan Qi surged and surged, bringing along a surge of soul energy that slowly flowed out of his pores, driving the surrounding demon beasts far away. So. Silver light fell to the ground, and suddenly, several figures shuttled through the sky. In the next second, they appeared at the eastern mountain range. The moment they landed, they bent their bodies and climbed up the tree branches like agile monkeys, aiming at the road out of the city. The people from Limitless Branch Palace are here, Qi Feihong reminded. Su Yi couldn't be more familiar with the aura of driving the heavens. Without even opening his eyes, Su Yi had already seen through their cultivation with his spiritual consciousness. Dan Ruxian was at the beginning stage of the 4th rank. The other young man was also at the beginning stage of the 4th rank. There was also a middle-aged man at the 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm. Dan Ruxian indeed didn't alert the upper echelons of Limitless Branch Palace. Those who came should be the elites of the same generation and the deacons who are close to her. Qi Feihong nodded and said softly, "They're here." Su Yi abruptly opened his eyes and raised his eyebrows. There were also 3 figures flying towards the mountain range in the east from the horizon. Boom! Following Su Yi's line of sight, Qi Dongjue suddenly felt 3 balls of flaming Yuan Qi spread across the sky and hit the eastern mountain range like meteorite. When they landed, they didn't make a sound. Su Yi and Qi Dongjue couldn't help but exclaim in admiration at such a movement technique. There were also 3 people from the Limitless sect. Among the 3, Su Yi had already seen 2 of them. The leader was Mu Renjie, who had obtained 4th place in the Tianfeng ranking tournament. He had been in the limelight for the Limitless sect and caused a sensation in the entire boundless continent. Chapter 2108. In the second match of the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, Mu Renjie faced Xiahong House and lost due to the difference in strength and talent. Su Yi had seen Mu Renjie a few times in Yuzhou, but he didn't have a deep impression of him. Now that he saw him again, he finally remembered what he looked like. 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm. His cultivation is much stronger than the last Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Looks like he also obtained a lot of opportunities in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament. Su Yi sighed. His eyes were like an owl as he stared at the 3 balls of flames flying towards him. After landing, Mu Renjie faced the night wind. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He looked handsome and extraordinary. He was only 21 or 22 years old. He walked with his back straight and his head held high. His tall figure was graceful and agile, and his purple robe fluttered in the evening wind. Behind him was Mu Ling, who he saw during the day. She was also at the 7th level of the Origin Emperor realm, but she seemed to be 5 or 6 years older than Mu Renjie. There was also a middle-aged man behind him. Judging from his aura, he was at the 8th level of the Origin Emperor realm. Mu Renjie had a righteous look on his face. His eyes glowed with a sharp light as he looked around. Then, he walked toward Dan Ruxian with steady step. "Brother Renjie, they're here." 3 figures quickly flew down from the tree and landed on the ground. It was Dan Ruxian, who was overjoyed, running towards Mu Renjie. "You're all here? What's going on?" Mu Renjie glanced at the young man and middle-aged man behind Dan Ruxian and nodded. They were obviously familiar with each other. Dan Ruxian pointed at the road leading to the city gate and said in a low voice, "Sister Mu Ling and I went to the Golden Pill workshop to buy herbs during the day and found that the boss was acting mysteriously. Recently, the Limitless sect and even the Yutian Palace are short on herbs. It must be related to the Golden Pill workshop. I don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. Not even the limitless sect? Mu Renjie frowned and stared coldly at the mountain road below. Mu Ling and Dan Ruxian looked at each other and nodded. Junior brother, the limitless sect isn't giving us any face today. The Golden Pill Workshop must have something extremely important. It's just that the sect elders have always told us to be respectful to the Golden Pill Workshop. If we clash head-on like this, won't Cult Master blame us? Mu Renjie raised his hand and stopped Mu Ling from speaking. He said in a deep voice, "There's no time to report it. Right now, the situation in the Sky Barbarian mainland was complicated. The feud between Su Yi and the Long family had already implicated many aristocratic families and top factions. If the boundless world is implicated at this time, it won't be a good thing. Junior brother, do you mean that behind the Golden Pill Workshop is the dragon?" Mu Ling covered her mouth and did not dare to say anything more. It better not be. If it was that family, he had to stop them no matter what and report back to the sect leader. We can't let that family touch the boundless world. Mu Renjie's expression was solemn as he looked at the mountain path with a cold and resolute gaze. Several people followed Mu Renjie's gaze and looked down. Their expressions also became nervous. The clouds drifted in the sky, and time passed slowly. The stars above were resplendent, and the pitch-black night seemed to hide endless secrets. These little fellows have considered a lot. This Mu Renjie is even more responsible. Not bad. Why doesn't our demon-subduing sect have such talents? After listening to their discussion, Qi Feihong was full of praise for Mu Renjie. If the Long family also comes to the boundless world, I'll make sure they don't return even if they don't do anything. Su Yi secretly concealed his aura and revealed his white teeth. His smile was as warm as the sun, but it was filled with murderous intent. The forest fell silent in an instant. The 6 people from the Boundless Sect and Jutian Palace hid behind huge rocks and stared at the city gate with bright eyes. "He's here." The first thing they heard was the sound of a wave of air that flashed across the sky. A round green figure carrying a huge cloth bag flipped over the city wall. Following the narrow mountain path, he ran up the mountain in a hurry. "Brother Renjie, that's shopkeeper Qin," Dan Ruxuan exclaimed softly as she unconsciously leaned towards Mu Renjie excitedly. "I see him." Mu Renjie narrowed his eyes and his aura suddenly tensed up. Under the gaze of several pairs of eyes, shopkeeper Qin was like a thief. He first looked around, then looked back every 3 steps, and raised his eyes every 4 steps. Finally, he arrived at an open space halfway up the mountain, dripping with sweat. Moonlight sprinkled on the clearing, and the snow-white light was like a wave, illuminating shopkeeper Qin's face. Bang! Putting the spatial bag on the ground and wiping his sweat, shopkeeper Qin's eyes released a vigilant light as he scanned the forest. Qi. To prevent being discovered, Mu Renjie and the 2 middle-aged men immediately circulated their ki and surrounded everyone. Powerful soul energy instantly enveloped everyone's aura. This shopkeeper Qin's cultivation isn't high, but his vigilance is quite high. Su Yi, who had already swallowed the shuttle shadow pill, was now hiding in the cloud shadow barrier. He looked at shopkeeper Qin through the mirror image and nodded to himself. After this, I can finally enter the sect." Shopkeeper Qin placed his hand on the spatial bag and laughed foolishly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this time, a bird-like cry resounded in the sky, and then a thick white light swooped down. A gust of wind suddenly blew up, and shopkeeper Qin's robe flew up high. His small eyes looked at the ripples in the sky, and his eyes immediately revealed a happy expression. He was so excited that his face flushed red. Shopkeeper Qin quickly lowered his head and squatted on the ground with his fat body, making a gesture of greeting. Outer Sect disciple Qin Ru respectfully welcomes the lords. Shopkeeper Qin respectfully shouted towards the sky. "A powerful person is coming." Su Yi and Mu Renjie shouted at the same time, and their eyes instantly locked on the white light that was falling from the sky. The light in the sky was illusory, and when it landed on the ground, they discovered that it was actually a huge white bird. The bird's eyes were as deep and bright as black pearls, and the feathers on its body were as white as snow. They stood erect all over the bird's body, and they looked like sharp feathers. Under the illumination of the moonlight, it looked even more dazzling and majestic. The terrifying wings flapped, and the momentum was frightening. A fierce white whirlwind was immediately set off in the quiet place, and even the surrounding air was filled with energy ripples. The front beak of the huge bird was very long, and it was as big as two heads. The flapping wings on both sides of its body were like steel claws. When they landed on the ground, they directly drew deep gullies. "Storm white jade condor," Qi Feihong exclaimed in his mind. "You know it?" Su Yi raised his eyebrows. Qi Feihong shouted, and looked at the huge beast that looked like it was painted. He said happily, "Don't worry, the Yun family is coming." Chapter 2109. Really? Su Yi was shocked. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the huge bird beast in the middle of the mountain. Chirp, chirp. The divine bird spread its wings and created a gale. However, apart from the gale, Su Yi couldn't feel any aura spreading out. Su Yi couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. The divine bird of the Yun clan is extremely fast. The aura of the rider is completely weakened by the gale created by the flapping wings. It is definitely a top-grade flying savage demonic beast. It must be someone from the Yun clan. Qi Feihong said softly. It's good that it's not someone from the Long clan. But why would the Yun clan collect elixirs? This is interesting. The corners of Su Yi's mouth curled up slightly, his eyes filled with curiosity. Duh. Looking at the giant bird, 4 figures slowly floated down from its back. The leader was a middle-aged man in a black robe. He was about 50 years old and had a strong aura. He was at the 6th level of Origin Ancestor Realm. Behind him were 2 young men. They looked arrogant and aloof. They were about 26 or 27 years old and were both at the 8th level of Origin Emperor Realm. When Su Yi's gaze fell on the last young man, his face instantly froze. His throat rolled as he looked at the young man in front of him in disbelief. PFFF. The aura in his body circulated rapidly. Immediately, there was a chaotic flow of air in his meridians. He was like a wild bull that had lost its direction. After regaining his senses, Su Yi immediately circulated his origin chi to force the aura back into his body so as not to expose his aura. Phew! He let out a long sigh and calmed down. Looking at the familiar face before him, Su Yi's eyes flickered. Wang, fatty. Su Yi muttered in his heart as his chest heaved up and down slowly. Wang Shangu was the first person he had met after he had transmigrated from Earth. Wang Shangu was his childhood friend. After he and Su Wan were taken away by the mysterious old woman in the barbarian demon forest, they had never seen each other again. The few years he had spent in the Cloud Immortal sect had allowed him, who did not have much talent in martial arts, to make significant progress in his cultivation. Based on the aura of the cultivation, Su Yi determined that it ought to be at the 6th level of the Origin Void stage. This young man doesn't fit in with the Yun family. Why is there such a person among the 4 who came? Qi Feihong was a little puzzled. The Yun family was powerful, so why would they follow someone with such a low cultivation? At this moment, Su Yi's mind was filled with images of his childhood. Memories that overlapped with his previous life kept surging up. All these years, Wang Shangu had been taking care of Su Wana for him. According to Duanmu Xiaoman, Wang Shangu had brought Su Wana through the barbarian demon forest with great difficulty. After that, he left the ancient Cloud Immortal sect and brought Su Wana back to Barbarian City just to find him. One could imagine how difficult it was. At this moment, Sui, who slowly stood up, answered Qi Feihong's question with a hoarse voice. His name is Wang Shangwu. He's my brother. Brother? A trace of puzzlement flashed through Qi Feihong's old eyes. It was really unheard of to meet Su Yi's brother here. He immediately asked in puzzlement, if you have a brother in the ancient Cloud Immortal sect, why would you spend so much effort to find the way to the Yun family? Su Yi shook his head. Su Wan'er was under Yun Zhongli's protection, so Wang Shangwu was definitely in an awkward situation and could not contact the outside world. He sighed. It's a long story. Why did he follow us? Why did the Yun family bring him here? Narrowing his eyes, Su Yi, who was originally here to watch the show, subconsciously began to pay special attention to the matter in front of him. On the other side, the people of the Limitless Sect and Yutian Palace had already changed into night clothes and covered their faces, ready to attack at any time. In the deep forest, Dan Rushuan, Mu Ling, and the others were waiting for Mu Renjia's order, ready to rush out at any time and catch them off guard. Qin Ru, have you brought everything? The middle-aged man in the lead had his hands behind his back. He looked at the chubby shopkeeper with a deep gaze. After he finished speaking, he glanced around with the corner of his mouth slightly raised. Shopkeeper Qin raised his head with a smile and said in a deep voice, Yes, Master Lu Ti. I have collected all the herbs in the ancient Moon City and even the boundless world. The people of the Limitless Sect and Yutian Palace have come to make trouble for me because of this. Yutian Palace? The man called Lu Ti frowned and his face turned slightly green. The people of Yutian Palace are nothing. They are worth mentioning. Do you think we are afraid of them? A young man behind him sneered and crossed his arms, clearly unconvinced. He glanced at Wang Shangwu behind him from the corner of his eyes. Wang Shangwu, who was following behind him, curled his lip. Resentment and hatred flashed through his eyes, but he remained silent. Junior Marshal brother, even the Limitless Sect is not worth mentioning. Qin Ru, this outer sect disciple doesn't have the prestige of the main family at all. The other young man's tone was even more arrogant. He was young, but he scolded shopkeeper Qin as if he was a subordinate. You two are right. Qin Ru's martial arts skills are low, and she only relies on her little brain to do things for the main family. When Qin Ru can enter the main family, I will need you to put in a good word for her in front of the elders. Lackey! Dan Rushuan spat, her face full of contempt and disdain for shopkeeper Qin. These people are too arrogant. How dare they humiliate the Limitless Sect like this? I will make them pay the price. Mu Renjia had already covered his face with a mask. Flames seeped out of his eyes and his aura began to swell. The dense killing intent around him caused the hearts of Mu Ling and the other experts behind him to tremble. Junior Marshal brother, Mu Ling said with a frown. Mu Ling looked at Mu Renjia. She knew that he valued martial arts and the glory of the sect the most. These mysterious people had already offended her junior martial brother's dignity. That origin ancestor is a little troublesome, but the others can still be dealt with. Mu Renjia muttered to himself. He then transmitted his voice to Mu Ling and the others through Yuan Qi transmission. Mu Ling, Rushuan and Song will hold back the two young men. Senior Marshal Brother Go, Deacon Cheng, and I will hold back the origin ancestor. In Mu Renjia's plan, he had eliminated Wang Shangwu. When Mu Renjia saw shopkeeper Qin take out the 10 extra-large space bags, he instantly made a charging gesture and said urgently, "Charge!" Suddenly, 6 figures flashed out of the open space. Their gazes were fixed on shopkeeper Qin's hand that was hovering in midair. Lu Ti seemed to have guessed that there would be an ambush. He did not even lift his eyelids when he felt the strong wind coming at him. He questioned shopkeeper Qin, "Qin Ru, it seems like you have a dirty tale." "Lord Lu, I don't know. I didn't bring anyone here. They must be tailing me." Shopkeeper Qin hurriedly put away the space bags and threw them into the white jade condor's mouth. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. He was extremely furious. He turned to Mu Renjie and the others and said, "Who are you? Are you trying to take advantage of the situation? Shopkeeper Qin, how dare you? What is your scheme for wantonly hoarding herbs and elixirs from the boundless world? Speak." Mu Renjie did not back down. His tone was sharp, and his fierce gaze landed on the 5 people opposite him. His aura surged and his battle intent was awe-inspiring. Chapter 21:10. It's not up to you to meddle in our affairs. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, get lost. Otherwise, die. The 2 youths behind him stepped forward, revealing their white teeth and terrifying smiles. Lu Ti stepped forward and stared at Mu Renjie with eyes as sharp as blades. Suddenly, a ferocious Yuan Qi aura surged out from him. Boom! The Yuan Qi wave spun twice in the air and arrived in front of Mu Renjie, forcing them to retreat. Retreat! Mu Renjie shouted to the 5 people behind him. As soon as he shouted, Mu Renjie stomped his foot and quickly formed a handprint in front of him to block the fierce wind. Dan Ruxian, Mu Ling, and Xiao Song had no time to block, and their masks were destroyed by the strong wind. "It's you." Shopkeeper Qin recognized Dan Ruxian and said to Lu Ti, "Master, they are from Limitless Sect and Yutian Palace. They are the ones who came to cause trouble during the day." Since she was already exposed, Dan Ruxian simply pulled down her mask and showed her face. She shouted angrily, "Fatty Qin, you traitor! You are doing business in Ancient Moon City, but you sold all of Ancient Moon City's pills. Not a single herb is left. Aren't you afraid that Yutian Palace and Limitless Sect will punish you?" Bullsh *T. Little girl, what do you know? Go home and ask your grandpa about the pills. Who dares to interfere with what Golden Pill Workshop wants? Qin Ru's words were very arrogant, startling Mu Renjie and the others. Mu Ling and Mu Renjie looked at each other and began to whisper in their hearts. Limitless Sect was indeed calm recently. Even if they were short of pills, no one in the sect stood out to explain the situation. Could it be that there's really something going on? Mu Ling muttered softly. Her gaze towards Mu Renjie was already filled with regret. Hearing Qin Ru's words, Lu Ti patted his robe and his gaze changed. He looked at Mu Renjie, whose mask was still intact, and smiled. "Little brother, you are Limitless Sect's Mu Renjie, right?" Hearing this, Mu Renjie's body trembled. His exposed eyebrows raised slightly and he raised his chin. Then, he pulled off his mask and looked at the stranger in front of him strangely. He asked coldly, "Do you know me?" Lu Ti let out a hearty laugh and pressed his palm down, signaling Mu Renjie and the others to relax. He said in a low voice, "That's right. After the Battle of Heavenly Wind, the Limitless Sect's name spread throughout the continent. You really do have some ability. You can be considered to be in the middle of the younger generation in our sect." As soon as he finished speaking, Mu Renjie's eyes turned cold again. He was the future leader of the Limitless Sect and the future pillar of the sect. However, this stranger in front of him had evaluated him as mediocre. Clang! He held a halberd horizontally in front of his chest. Immediately, the 5 people behind him drew their weapons one after another. For a moment, the light shone brightly, and Yuan Qi burst forth. Mu Renjie's face quickly darkened. He pointed his halberd at Lu Ti and said angrily, "What do you mean? There must be a limit to insults." Lu Ti narrowed his eyes as his Yuan Qi shone brightly. His expression changed slightly as he shook his robe. A surge of spatial energy roared out from Lu Ti's body, causing the surrounding space to ripple rapidly. The matter of collecting the pills was urgent. "It's our fault that we didn't inform the Limitless Sect and Heavenly Palace. Why don't you bring your people back first?" Lu Ti said faintly. A silent, domineering aura enveloped his body. It seemed like a discussion, but it was actually an order. As soon as he finished speaking, the two young men behind him crossed their arms and sneered at Mu Renjie and the others. Lu Ti waved his hand and added, "Tomorrow, I will let Qin Ru arrange the location. The Limitless Sect's leader and Dan Honggong will be there. You will know the situation then. You'd better get out of here quickly." "Why should I believe you?" Mu Renjie stared at shopkeeper Qin and his hand unconsciously reached for the weapon at his waist. "Because of your strength." The two young men behind him smiled evilly. Their lazy eyes hid killing intent as they mocked. "Don't think that just because you are in the top few in the Heavenly Wind ranking tournament, you are invincible. We are existences that you can't afford to offend." The other young man also said coldly. After that, he no longer looked at Mu Renjie. "Originally, I wanted to defeat you guys tomorrow. However, since you want to do it today, it's not impossible for me to bestow upon you a defeat." "Lu Xian, Lu Yi, don't be presumptuous," Lu Ti scolded. He then said to Mu Renjie, "Leave quickly. Go back and tell your master that this is what I, Lu Ti, said. Also, the girl from Heavenly Palace, Lu Ti, will pay a visit tomorrow." After thinking for a moment, Mu Renjie's fingers gripped the halberd tightly. The silver light from the halberd hit his serious face. Then, Mu Renjie nodded and gestured to retreat. He said, "Lu Ti, I will remember this name. Limitless Sect's Mu Renjie will be waiting for you tomorrow. As for you, I will personally defeat you tomorrow." Mu Renjie's last two sentences were naturally for Lu Xian and Lu Yi. After saying that, Mu Renjie glanced at the herbs beside the white jade sculpture and led the others away. "Phew! They're finally gone. If they didn't leave now, these kids would have caused a big disaster," Qi Feihong said softly as he looked at the distant flowing light. Inside the ice crystal barrier, Su Yi sat cross-legged with a cold expression. His deep eyes stared at Lu Ti and shopkeeper Qin. "Are we really going to the Limitless Sect and Heavenly Palace tomorrow?" Qin Ru asked Lu Ti carefully. After watching Mu Renjie and the others leave, Lu Ti returned to the white jade sculpture. He opened the interspatial bag and checked the herbs, saying, "Before leaving, Patriarch thought about it. It's indeed inappropriate to stockpile the pills without informing the Limitless Sect and Heavenly Palace. The Limitless Sect has been showing filial piety to our Yun family all these years. It's okay to give them 1 or 2 quotas for this dire sea expedition. As for Heavenly Palace, as long as they go against that family, they are good friends of our Yun family. Naturally, talented people can do it too." "But doesn't Patriarch hate Su Yi?" "Su Yi is that Heavenly Palace goddess sweetheart." Qin Ru glanced at Lu Xian and Lu Yi and asked softly, "Are you guessing Patriarch's thoughts?" Lu Ti turned around with a sharp gaze. The sudden burst of coldness made Qin Ru kneel on the ground. She trembled and said with fear, "Yes, you're right, sir. Get up. Is there any news about Su Yi in Heavenly Palace?" Lu Ti rubbed his brows and closed the interspatial bag. "I heard that Su Yi washed Holy Mountain with blood as soon as he returned to the Sky Barbarian realm. After that, he stayed in Heavenly Palace's headquarters." "There's no other news," Qin Ru replied. Wang Shangwu, who had been silent all this time, seemed to have changed into a different person when he heard about Su Yi. He walked to shopkeeper Qin's side and said excitedly, "Is that true? Su Yi washed Holy Mountain with blood?" Shopkeeper Qin was baffled by Wang Shangwu's excitement. He looked at Lu Ti in astonishment and asked, "This is?" Chapter 21:11. Lu Ti did not answer. Behind him, Lu Xian smirked and looked at Wang Shangwu mockingly. "He's Su Yi's lackey. He's always asking if there's any news about Su Yi." Wang Shangwu frowned at Lu Xian's words. He turned his head and glared at Lu Xian, then turned to shopkeeper Qin and asked excitedly, "Shopkeeper Qin, did Su Yi really bathe the Holy Mountain in blood?" Slowly nodding his head, Shopkeeper Qin sized up the young man in front of him. His martial arts cultivation was low, and no matter how he looked at him, he didn't seem like someone from the Yun family. He replied, "Sir, Su-Yi has indeed bathed Holy Mountain in blood. Many of Holy Mountain's grand elders lost their lives at his hands." "Good, good." Wang Shangwu clenched his fists, his face flushed with excitement. He said in a low voice, "Su-Yi finally did it. I knew this guy could do it." Wang Shangwu stood up excitedly and looked at Lu Xian and Lu Yi. He could not wait to tell them that Su-Yi finally did it. Wang, fatty. Su-Yi, who was in the ice crystal, saw that Wang Shangwu was so excited because of him. He felt a warm current in his heart. At the same time, Lu Xian and Lu Yi exchanged glances behind him. Lu Xian's pupils flashed as he roared, "Have you had enough? Idiot!" Bang! A white light gushed out from Lu Xian's fingertips and hit Wang Shangwu's face hard. The crisp sound resounded in the quiet mountain. Wang Shangwu's face was hit squarely, and his sturdy body was like a rolling boulder, rolling on the ground for some distance before coming to a stop. Seeing this, Shopkeeper Qin's expression changed and he quickly hid behind Lu Ti. Lu Ti, who was in front of him, saw Lu Xian's attack. He frowned and his face darkened, but he did not stop him. "Pucci!" Wang Shangwu lay on the ground with his hand on his chest, panting heavily like a little buffalo. He got up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand. A miserable smile hung on the corner of his mouth as he said, "What's wrong? Are you upset after hearing that Su-Yi massacred the Holy Mountain? The Su-Yi that you all looked down on had done something that you could never do. You're the trash." "What a joke. Who does Su-Yi think he is? Bathe the sacred mountain in blood? Would he dare to come to the Yun family? If he comes, I'll make him kneel down and apologize to young Miss." Lu Xian coldly snorted. With a wave of his sleeve, an even more powerful wave surged out from his sleeve, filled with killing intent. "He doesn't deserve to be compared to our Yun family. I'm afraid I can only make a move against the sacred mountain. Do you dare to come to the Yun family? Aren't you still hiding in the Yutian palace?" With a mocking smile, Lu Yi walked to Wang Shangwu's side and heavily slapped Wang Shangwu's face. Wang Shangwu pushed Lu Yi's hand away. The anger in his eyes was like that of a mad lion. He shouted in a low voice, "Bullshit! What does young Miss Yunjing's matter have to do with Su-Yi? Su-Yi isn't afraid of you." Bam! As soon as he finished speaking, another heavy blow came from the left and landed on Wang Shangwu's face. Immediately, a searing pain caused Wang Shangwu's face to twist in pain. Lu Xian also seemed to be enraged. His hands grabbed Wang Shangwu's neck and his face came close to Wang Shangwu's face as he shouted, "Since you worship Su-Yi so much, I'll send you to see Su-Yi. Come. How many times have I not been beaten by you in the Yun family? Beat me to death today if you dare. Su-Yi will avenge me." Wang Shangwu didn't seem to care anymore. He raised his red face and angrily glared at Lu Xian. Boom! At this moment, Su-Yi, who'd witnessed all of this, had a gloomy expression. If it wasn't for Qi Feihong's repeated dissuasion, it might have been Lu Xian and Lu Yi who were lying on the ground now. "Su-Yi, bear with it. Those two brats are beasts, but Lu Ti seems to have something to say. Wait a minute." Qi Feihong tried to dissuade Su-Yi in a soft voice. He knew that these two kids had already been put on Su-Yi's death list. He was afraid that Su-Yi would explode into a monstrous rage and completely form enmity with the Yun clan. Creak! With his head lowered, Su-Yi clenched his fists tightly. The pores and blood all over his body began to boil. A blazing aura enveloped his body. "Let them live for one more breath," Su-Yi roared madly in his heart. At the same time, his eyes fell on Wang Shangwu, who was desperately trying to protect him. Su-Yi said softly, "Fatty Wang, I will definitely let you reach the peak of martial arts and no longer be bullied by others. In the distance, the confrontation between the two sides gradually became white-hot. Lu Xian and Wang Shangwu's faces were covered with blood vessels. When Lu Xian's raised fist was entangled by a waterfall, the two of them looked at Lu Ti behind them at the same time. Lu Xian, Lu Yi, I didn't bring you here for you to fight in front of Wang Shangwu. Both of you stop. Lu Ti finally couldn't bear it anymore. His index and middle fingers formed a seal, an array of light tightly entangled Lu Xian's fist, preventing it from moving even half an inch. Immediately, Lu Xian and Lu Yi both frowned. They restrained their aura, stood up, and said coldly, "Humph. Anyway, this guy can't stay in the Yun family anymore. We can't beat up that bastard Su Yi. Can't we vent our anger on him? Impudent. Is this the martial virtue of the Yun family? What's the difference between you and the Long family for bullying people like this?" Lu Ti frowned and scolded in a serious voice. Standing to the side, Qin Ru curled up his huge body and secretly shook his head. Although he was an outer sect disciple, he knew that Lu Ti must have considerable power in the ancient sect to be able to bring these two people out. Otherwise, Lu Ti wouldn't have waited until now to stop them. Can't stay in the Yun family. What does Lord Lu Ti mean? Wang Shangwu's eyes widened, his expression gradually becoming nervous as he asked Lu Ti. Lu Ti put his hands behind his back and walked to Wang Shangwu's side. A wave of qi pulled the latter up. Lu Ti handed over an elixir. After watching Wang Shangwu swallow it, he said in a low voice, "Some things can't be hidden from you. I brought you out this time not only to satisfy your desire to know Su Yi's whereabouts, but also because all the Yun family elders unanimously agreed that you can't stay in the Yun family." "Why? I still need to protect Sister Wan Er." Wang Shangwu immediately became anxious. Thick veins bulged on his neck and his skin began to redden. Lu Xian and Lu Yi also turned around. Their malicious eyes once again surged with disdain. They said in a low voice, "You? A toad wants to eat swan meat. Su Yi harmed first Mississippi. Do you also want to harm second Miss?" "Shut up, all of you shut up." Lu Ti waved his hand and looked at Wang Shangwu apologetically. "Shangwu, the Yun family knows that you've protected second Miss many times. But after all, you're not a member of the Yun family. The fact that you've stayed in the Yun family for so long has made things difficult for the Yun family for a long time. This time, we came out to find elixirs, select talents, and find a way out for you. The Yutian Palace is a good choice. With your relationship with Su Yi, I believe they will accept you." Chapter 21:12. After he finished speaking, the forest instantly fell into silence. Lu Ti looked a little embarrassed. He patted Wang Shangwu heavily on the shoulder and sighed. "Shangwu, what do you think of going to the Limitless Command Heavenly Palace? When you get there, you can go and find your brother, okay?" With a sneer, Wang Shangwu instantly quieted down. A black shadow fell on Wang Shangwu's forehead. He lowered his head and pushed Lu Ti's hands away. "Whether I go to the Limitless Command Heavenly Palace or not is my business. Don't worry about the Yun family." Slowly raising his head, Wang Shangwu's scarlet eyes flashed with a trace of anger at being abandoned. A wry smile gradually appeared on his lips. "Lord Lu Ti, thank you for bringing me out and letting me know Su Yi's whereabouts." Looking to the side, Wang Shangwu's fighting spirit was strong. He glared at Lu Xian and Lu Yi and shouted, "Remember, Wan Er is my sister. It is my responsibility to protect her. One day, I will defeat all of you in front of her. Shut your stinky mouths." Then, Wang Shangwu wiped away the tears at the corner of his eyes and ran up the mountain in front of everyone. Wang Shangwu's words were still ringing in Lu Ti's ears. Every word made Lu Ti's face turn extremely ugly. Behind him, Lu Xian and Lu Yi's mocking voices rang out again. He's finally gone. This idiot has been hanging around in front of Wan all day long. If Wan wasn't grounded, we wouldn't have been able to chase him away. Are you done? Lu Xian, Lu Yi, even if you are the grandsons of Elder Lu Yun and Elder Lu Li, you should behave yourself. This is not the ancient Cloud Immortal sect. Lu Ti, who could not bear it any longer, looked away from Wang Shangwu and glared fiercely at Lu Xian and Lu Yi. The two young men looked at each other and smiled. They shrugged and curled their lips indifferently, not taking Lu Ti's words to heart. Go and check the medicinal herbs and elixirs first, Lu Ti ordered. Qin Ru also started to move. Immediately after, the gale-white jade condor let out a long cry. Its wings flapped, creating a gust of wind. The milky white storm continued to rage on the spot, carrying the four of them as it charged into the horizon. The night wind whistled non-stop, and the fierce wind and waves blew past them. Qin Ru was busy counting the goods, while Lu Xian and Lu Yi were still immersed in the joy of humiliating Wang Shangwu. It was as if they had really humiliated Su Yi, their faces full of glory. On the bird's back, Lu Ti, who was standing on the giant head of the beast, felt that something was wrong. His heart tightened. He looked back and once again looked at the flat ground from before. Lu Ti collected his thoughts and frowned. He mumbled in his heart, "Was I mistaken? Strange." Lu Ti's thoughts were interrupted by Qin Ru's voice. "Sir, there are too many medicinal herbs. It is difficult to distinguish the quality and quality of all of them in one night." Lu Ti frowned. His gaze sank into the valley. Wang Shangwu's figure had long been submerged in the inky blue mountain forest. Lu Ti, who was upset, said casually, "Hurry up. Also, postpone tomorrow's selection by 3 days. Go and inform everyone." Qin Ru nodded. He was a shrewd person. He naturally knew that Lu Ti wanted to give Wang Shangwu time. He would only be relieved when he saw Wang Shangwu in the Yutian Palace with his own eyes. "Yes, sir." Qin Ru bowed and said respectfully. Swish. Su Yi, who had come out of the ice crystal barrier, had a piercingly cold gaze. His spiritual sense had heard everything Lu Ti said. Looking at the three people on the bird's back, Su Yi's eyes turned red. Blood spurted out. He said, "Lu Xian and Lu Yi, just wait for your death." Swoosh, swoosh. On the flat ground of the mountain forest, an imperceptible wisp of light flashed past. Dust and smoke flashed in the air like a meteor and then disappeared. In the Guyu mountain range, countless pairs of savage eyes flashed in the dense forest. The scarlet beast eyes were like lanterns, illuminating the Guyu mountain range with killing intent and the smell of blood. Creak. Walking on the withered branches and rotten leaves, Wang Shangwu's broad body couldn't help but tremble. His eyes constantly scanned the surroundings, and the hidden dangers caused him to gradually sweat large beads of sweat. Because of Lu Xian's 2 slaps, Wang Shangwu's face was still swollen. He found a huge piece of broken wood and sat down. He kept rubbing his face and gasping in pain. "These 2 bastards. One day, I'll be like Su Yi and beat all of you to the ground." Wang Shangwu fiercely clenched his fist and heavily smashed it into the tree trunk. Instantly, a crack appeared on the tree trunk. Looking around, Wang Shangwu could hear the barbarian beasts roaring in the distance. The sound of rubbing against the ground made Wang Shangwu even more agitated. A trace of fear appeared in his frightened eyes. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. It's the same as the barbarian demon forest." Wang Shangwu comforted himself. But once he mentioned the barbarian demon forest, Wang Shangwu instantly calmed down. He was extremely dejected and muttered to himself, "Return to Barbarian City? Or Command Heavenly Palace?" Command Heavenly Palace was mentioned by Lu Ti. But if he went to the nearest limitless Command Heavenly Palace, he would definitely meet them. At that time, he would inevitably be humiliated by those 2. Return to Barbarian City? Back then, his martial arts were weak. But after experiencing so many things, Wang Shangwu actually improved quite a bit. Wang Shangwu, who was originally envious of Su Yi's personality and life, gradually had the urge to reach the peak of martial arts. Wang Shangwu was absolutely unwilling to return to Barbarian City just like that. This fellow. He's really different from before. Su Yi looked at Wang Shangwu below and muttered to himself. A warm current flowed through his heart. The various experiences in the Yun family made this timid childhood friend of his become different from before. This fellow is unusual. Qi Feihong rubbed his chin as he stared fixedly at Wang Shangwu below, and he said in a low voice, "This fellow's cultivation at the Origin Void Realm was beaten up by that little bastard Lu Xian, yet he wasn't heavily injured. That's an Origin Emperor Realm powerhouse. Maybe his skin is rough and his flesh is thick. He's been beaten since young." Su Yi smiled bitterly and shook his head. But he was quickly denied by Qi Feihong. "This fellow's talent is extraordinary. Look, the injuries on his face are slowly disappearing. If it were an ordinary person, they would need at least 10 days to half a month to walk." Qi Feihong asked Su Yi. Hearing that, Su Yi also began to pay attention to Wang Shangwu's aura. A surge of soul energy was released from his glabella and enveloped Wang Shangwu's body. His aura was stable and didn't seem like someone who had been beaten up by an Origin Emperor Realm powerhouse. There's a type of bloodline or physique. The more cruel the training, the more it can stimulate the physical strength in the body. After some kind of special stimulation, the overall martial arts cultivation will have an extreme eruption. Their achievements will definitely surpass the imagination of ordinary people. Suddenly, Su Yi felt as though he was electrocuted. The relevant records in the Dragon Ancestor Medicine scripture also appeared before his eyes. He said in unison with Qi Feihong, "Tyrannical Emperor Battle Physique." Chapter 21:13. Su Yi immediately withdrew his soul energy from Wang Shangwu's body. He looked at Wang Shangwu in disbelief and said softly, "It is recorded in the Medicine Codex, but is it true?" According to the Dragon Ancestors Medicine Codex, this bloodline only existed in the Tian barbarian continent during the ancient times. It was the ultimate talent among humans, and almost no one had ever seen it before. How could it appear in Fatty Wang's body? Su Yi's expression was a little strange, but Wang Shangwu's rapid recovery was a fact in front of him. "Strange things have happened in the barbarian city," Qi Feihong said softly. Lu Ruoxi was also a resident of the barbarian city. Like her mother, she also had the rainbow exquisite egg. This kind of thing was also strange, so it was not strange for her to have the tyrannical emperor's battle body. Could it be related to the barbarian city being a teleportation point? Su Yi suddenly realized. Qi Feihong nodded and stroked his beard with a smile. He looked at Wang Shangwu in front of him and said softly, "Originally, if he stayed in the barbarian city for his whole life, he might never have achieved much. However, after coming to the Yun family after suffering so much, he actually made such great progress. This kind of transformation is really hard to imagine." Su Yi let out a long sigh of relief. He finally understood. His deep eyes were filled with gratitude towards Wang Shangwu. He could not help but feel a surge of hot blood in his heart and said, "Fatty, I will definitely make you stand up again in front of those two brats. You have to fight back for this face yourself." 3 days. Qi Feihong counted with his fingers and said casually, "Just now, that brat Lu Ti postponed the selection for 3 days. What kind of transformation can he have in 3 days? I am really looking forward to it." Su Yi waved his hand forward and looked at the golden dragon armor geomancy map in front of him. After pondering for a while, his gaze suddenly fell on a cave of barbarian demons not far from here. He said with a determined look, "I got it." This is a good place to train. Roar. Deep into the night, the low and deep roars of beasts echoed from all directions, ceaselessly shocking and stimulating Wang Shangwu. When he listened carefully, he actually heard roars that pierced through the clouds and split rocks resounding through the sky. Wang Shangwu, who was only at the origin void stage, felt a dangerous aura at all times in a place where demonic beasts gathered, as if he was sitting on pins and needles. Sitting restlessly on the broken tree, Wang Shangwu didn't dare to close his eyes for even a moment. He desperately hoped that the sun would rise quickly so that he could quickly and safely descend the mountain. Wang Shangwu did not want to stay in this damned place any longer. Qi La. Right at this moment, Wang Shangwu, who was looking back at his surroundings, suddenly saw 3 demonic wind wolf spiders at the peak of the demonic illusionary realm walking towards him from the depths of the forest. The terrifying furry body lay on the ground, and 6 pairs of glowing green eyes were aimed at Wang Shangwu. Stinky juice madly flowed out from the corners of their enormous mouths that seemed to be radioactive, adding a terrifying aura to it. The tentacles on both sides of their bodies were pitch black like iron, like hard steel forks that pierced straight into the ground, plowing out a few holes of varying depths on the ground, and their auras were terrifying and shocking. Seeing the 3 terrifying demonic illusionary realm wild beasts reveal greedy gazes, Wang Shangwu, who stood up unconsciously, retreated backwards, and his expression gradually became bitter. When it rains, it pours. Wang Shangwu had a long face as he muttered to himself. Facing the demonic wind wolf spiders, a trace of terror flashed within Wang Shangwu's eyes, and his throat continuously rolled as large beads of sweat swiftly slid down his face. Su Yi, who was on a high branch in the forest, similarly frowned when he saw the situation below. In his heart, Qi Feihong's voice sounded out once more. Do you want to go down and help? A 6th-level Origin Void Stage martial artist facing 3 wolf spiders at the peak of the Origin Void Stage. Demon beasts can eat people. Tightly pursing his lips, Su Yi became nervous as he listened to Qi Feihong's words. In the end, Su Yi still gritted his teeth and shook his head. If he really has the Overlord's battle body, then he ought to be able to withstand this kind of attack that surpasses his level. He even endured a vicious beating from an Origin Monarch Realm martial artist, and the wolf spiders are his first test. Subsequently, the 2 of them focused their gazes on Wang Shangwu below, and they saw Wang Shangwu's body trembling as he ceaselessly retreated backwards. Swish! The wolf spiders that spat out acidic venom formed a circle and swiftly surrounded Wang Shangwu. 3 hoarse roars sounded out as the 3 wolf spiders charged over like a storm. Squeak, squeak! Everywhere they passed, the grass and trees instantly withered, and if one looked carefully, there were still faint burn marks left on the grass. Seeing the 3 black storms charging over, Wang Shangwu didn't dare shrink back, and simply tore his clothes to shreds and threw them on the ground, revealing his muscular back that was covered in scars as he shouted loudly. Come on! The Yun clan bullied me, and you bastards bullied me as well. Even if I die today, I'll bury all of you with me. As soon as he finished speaking, killing intent flashed within Wang Shangwu's eyes. Wind blew beneath his feet as numerous Origin energy vortexes were formed, and his tiger fist was raised up high as he aimed at the wolf spiders in the middle and blasted out. The fist light left his body and seemed to tear apart the air, causing waves of ripples in the surroundings as it collided with the venom spat out by the wolf spiders. Bang bang! Instantly, low and deep sonic booms dispersed the venom accumulated in the mouths of the 3 wolf spiders, and a bewitching green light descended like a rainstorm. Chapter 2109. Demonic Wind Wolf Spider. When the 2 wolf spiders on the left and right saw that Wang Shangwu was actually so ferocious, they swiftly crawled to the side after being dispersed by the strong wind, waiting for an opportunity. Pooh! Venom filled the air. Taking advantage of the gap between the falling venom, Wang Shangwu once again rushed forward, seizing the initiative. With a leap, he sat on the wolf spider in the middle with the weight of Mount Tai. His fist smashed down towards the wolf spider's ferocious eyes. Roar! The wolf spider's eyes were immediately smashed into a pile of mush. Wang Shangwu was still not satisfied, and continued to punch the wolf spider's face as he roared, "Lu Xian, Lu Yi, you bastards! You bullied Wan Mimi! You bullied me! You even looked down on Su Yi! I'll beat you to death! Yun Clan! I'll beat you to death!" Bang bang bang! Balls of anger were constantly vented on the tarantula, and the tarantula, which was being straddled, was in constant pain. The two antennae on both sides continuously waved upwards, slashing heavily on Wang Shangwu's body. Immediately, blood dripped down, but Wang Shangwu did not seem to feel the slightest bit of pain. What a valiant body! Qi Feihong looked at Wang Shangwu as if he did not feel the slightest bit of pain. He was like a fighting machine, continuously hitting the wolf spider, causing him to be extremely surprised. On the other hand, Su Yi's expression was grave. His eyebrows were getting deeper and deeper as he said, "His resistance is all due to the injuries on his body. Those dogs from the Yun clan, I will definitely let them know that they dare to touch my Su Yi's brother. This can't go on. This little guy only has a cultivation base. He doesn't know any martial arts." Qi Feihong pointed downwards. The two wolf spiders on the left and right had already regained their senses, and began to help the dying wolf spider in the middle attack Wang Shangwu. Chapter 21:14. Below, the main characters of the three tarantulas were like steel blades as they continuously stabbed Wang Shangwu's flesh and blood body. Very quickly, Wang Shangwu woke up from the smell of blood. His eyes gradually became clear and bright. He quickly jumped off the tarantula's back and jumped into the distance. He bent his body and gasped for breath. Bam! Very quickly, the tarantula in the middle fell to the ground due to its inability to hold on. It had lost all signs of life, but this caused the two tarantulas to roar again and again. Ha ha ha! Refreshing. Even if I, Fatty Wang, die here today, I won't be ashamed. Wang Shangwu coughed violently, and the bone-deep wound on his back began to bleed. Wang Shangwu quickly straightened his body and slowly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were fearless as he looked at the tarantula with an ominous glint in his eyes. The two sides shouted at each other. Su Yi, I can't help you take care of little sister Wana anymore. I haven't been home for a long time, I want to go home. Wang Shangwu blushed, his red eyes gradually becoming moist. Oh! As if demonstrating their power, the two tarantulas circled around the tarantula in the middle. Their eyes shone with a fierce and brutal light, as if they were devouring a large mouth, constantly extending small tentacles. It was a shocking sight. Fatty Wang. Su Yi stared at Wang Shangwu, his heart trembling. Even at this time, he was still thinking about himself and little sister Wana. For himself, for a promise, Wang Shangwu could not go home for a few years. How could Su Yi not feel guilty towards him? Lowering his eyebrows, Su Yi's eyes became a little moist. He immediately stepped on the tree trunk, and the invisible wings on his back flapped. He only heard Qi Feihong's voice. Wait, this guy hasn't reached his limit yet. The tyrannical emperor's war body can't be activated unless he's in a desperate situation. If you help him now, he won't be able to move forward for the rest of his life. Hearing this, Su Yi's right foot suddenly stopped, and his brows gradually relaxed as he stared at the two tarantulas in front of him. CI. When the extremely poisonous liquid landed on the ground, a decaying white gas immediately rose into the air. The two tarantulas seemed to be incomparably indignant because of the death of their leader. Their huge antennae rubbed against the ground as they glared angrily at Wang Shangwu, ready to attack. On the other side, the wound on Wang Shangwu's back was shockingly red. Wang Shangwu endured the pain on his back, and clenched his fists again. He panted and laughed. Sui, you little brat, I really don't know how you survived those years. If I can survive, I will definitely go to the Limitless Command Heavenly Palace and give you a good scolding. Instead of being a good young master, you came here to suffer. Bang! His bulging muscles looked like they were made of iron. Wang Shangwu raised his chin, as if he was ready to fight. Yuan Qi surged around his body, and a thin layer of Yuan Qi armor covered his entire body. With a loud roar, he transformed into a savage beast and charged towards the two tarantulas. Roar! Soon, the two tarantulas on the opposite side also charged towards Wang Shangwu. The huge impact shattered all the surrounding trees, and wherever their antennae passed, dust was raised. With a loud roar, Wang Shangwu's eyes flashed with a fierce fighting spirit. Fist aura shot out from his left and right fists in an attempt to shake off the two tarantulas. He was prepared to use a one-on-one method to finish off one of the tarantulas first. Unexpectedly, the moment the two tarantulas met Wang Shangwu's fist aura, they dodged at an even faster speed. The two tarantulas were always inseparable, as if they were one. They spat out venom from their mouths, and terrifying dark green poisonous arrows tore through the air, shooting towards Wang Shangwu. Not good! Sui shouted. The peak origin void stage tarantulas had already gained intelligence, and Wang Shangwu's thoughts were seen through. Without any martial skills, how could he fight with just his physical strength? In the middle of the battle, Wang Shangwu also sucked in a breath of cold air. He couldn't get close to the tarantulas, nor could he separate them. This was extremely disadvantageous for him. Under the attacks of the two tarantulas, Wang Shangwu's back and arms were quickly cut open, and the venom seeped into his blood. After a while, Wang Shangwu, who was standing in the same place, felt dizzy, and his limbs began to sway. The tarantulas in front of him constantly changed their positions, overlapping one another. Wang Shangwu suddenly stopped and shook his dizzy head. Suddenly, a strong wind came from the side. Boom! Wang Shangwu subconsciously raised his hands to block, and the gravity passed through his arms to his entire body. Like an exploding cannonball, he heavily smashed into the ground in the distance, and countless cracks spread out. In the blink of an eye, a tarantula directly pressed down on Wang Shangwu's body, and the venom from its mouth constantly dripped into Wang Shangwu's ears. The stinky smell of smoke filled Wang Shangwu's heart with a chill, and he constantly swayed his head left and right to avoid the attack of the venom. Wang Shangwu used all the strength in his body to resist the tentacles. At the same time, he roared loudly, and the veins on his body bulged like dragons. Qi La. While Wang Shangwu was using all his strength to resist, the lone tarantula on the right once again stretched out its tentacles. The black horn was like a blade cutting through the air, directly aiming at Wang Shangwu's heart. Go to hell! Wang Shangwu, who couldn't split himself, could only use his legs. His right foot heavily stomped out, and he aimed at the tentacles. Boom! In the next second, there was only a loud explosion, and the lone tarantula was like a kite with a broken string, heavily smashing into the gravel. The tarantula's entire body was like an exploding berry, rotting the entire forest into a barren, lifeless state. Wang Shangwu was incomparably shocked. When did his foot have such power? At the same time, the tarantula above was also shocked. Wang Shangwu, who had seized the opportunity, violently punched the tarantula's lower abdomen again. Chi! The tarantula's body rapidly emitted the sound of gas bursting out. Wang Shangwu's feet stomped down, and he quickly jumped up from the ground, and retreated a few meters back. As for the tarantula that was hit in the lower abdomen, its demonic core was damaged. Not long after, its fierce demonic eyes turned white, and a large amount of dark green venom flowed out from its lower abdomen, and it lost its vitality. After finally dealing with 3 tarantulas, Wang Shangwu held onto the tree trunk, and his body began to twitch unconsciously. He then laughed, ha 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 ha. Finally dead. I don't need to rely on others to kill these beasts. Then you have to rely on yourself for the rest of your life. Can you do it? On the tree trunk, a black-robed figure slowly floated down, and stood in front of Wang Shangwu. In the black robe, a deep gaze fell on Wang Shangwu's body that was riddled with scars, and quickly left without leaving a trace, with a grave expression. You are the person who helped me defeat the tarantula just now? Immediately, Wang Shangwu knew why he was able to send the tarantula flying just now. Inside the black robe, Su Yi's eyes flashed with a trace of fluctuation. He lowered his voice and said, "That's right. In the middle of the night, you came to the Guyu mountain alone. Do you want to die?" Chapter 21:15. Wang Shangwu's hands suddenly hit the tree trunk. His eyebrows were full of unwillingness as he sighed, "I was driven out. The world is vast, but now I don't know where to go. A man creates his own path. The world is vast, and I run amok. There is no need to care about other people's faces." A faint and indifferent voice came out from the black robe. Wang Shangwu suddenly raised his head and was startled. This indifferent and domineering tone was somewhat similar to that of Su Yi. Wang Shangwu immediately said, "Senior is right, I was wrong. It's just that my talent is too low. It's a bit embarrassing to return like this. I can't even defeat the tarantula." With a chuckle, Su Yi looked at Wang Shangwu, who was different from the past. His heart was full of strange fluctuations. He said in a hoarse voice, "Now there is an opportunity. Are you willing to fight for it?" "Senior." Wang Shangwu's eyes suddenly became excited. He half knelt on the ground and said, "Wang Shangwu has never had a master since childhood. If Senior can be my master, Wang Shangwu will not disgrace his master's name." Su Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He quickly helped Wang Shangwu up. When his palm touched Wang Shangwu's body, Su Yi's eyes flashed with an undetectable fluctuation. His mind moved slightly, and he said softly, "Although it is not as strong as the golden dragon's flesh, it still has extraordinary potential." Looking at his childhood friend's simple face, Su Yi calmed his mind. Now was not the time to reveal his true face. The Overlord's war body had not been formed yet. He couldn't let Wang Shangwu have feelings of dependence. "Let's heal first." Su Yi changed the topic and said softly. After sensing the difference in Wang Shangwu, Su Yi handed the half-filled bottle of spirit liquid to Wang Shangwu and taught Wang Shangwu some simple breathing exercises and healing method. After 2 hours, Wang Shangwu's wounds were healed by more than half under the healing of the spirit liquid. Su Yi, who was standing to the side, clicked his tongue in wonder as he and Qi Feihong discussed the peculiarities of the tyrannical emperor's battle physique. "This guy's flesh isn't as tough as yours, but with this hidden explosive power, Lu Xian and Lu Yi definitely won't be a match for him when he reaches the Origin Emperor realm." Qi Feihong exclaimed in admiration. Nodding his head in agreement, Su Yi leaned against the tree, his eyes filled with amazement. He then sighed, "It's a pity that you can't come out yet. If you come out, I'll make him acknowledge you as his master." "That's a good idea, but it's a pity that I'm just a soul body." Qi Feihong shrugged his shoulders, expressing his helplessness. He coughed softly. Qi Feihong, who was also a soul body, also needed the moon-devouring Bodhi Gu, serene flame flower, and sky-fragrant glass stamen. "I have to find these 3 things quickly. Qianxue should also be out." After absorbing Ling Lanin's origin blood, what kind of cultivation would she have when she comes out? Thinking of this, Su Yi couldn't help but yearn for it. With the revival of little handsome Su and Ling Qianxue, the battle against the Long family would be like adding wings to a tiger. The 9 orifices return to Sunleaf is also about to mature. After going to the Yun family, I have to collect the moon-devouring Bodhi goo. I might have the whereabouts of the sky-fragrant glass stamen on the way. Chi Feihong looked at the herb field. The leaves were full of vitality, like a fairy stretching its leaves. Sui nodded, then thought of the desperate situation in the Black Sea that Lu Ti mentioned. He whispered, "But what is the Yun family doing? Why do they need so many elixirs for that desperate situation?" Chi Feihong shrugged. The matters of the aristocratic families were not something that a top force like him should know. No matter what, let's go to the Yun family first. Yunjing and Wan. Sui couldn't help but frown slightly. At this moment, Wang Shangwu had already stood up. He looked at his hands in disbelief, stretched his waist, and walked towards Sui. "Master, my injuries have recovered by more than half in such a short time. Your medicine is amazing." Wang Shangwu was so excited that he jumped on the spot, indicating that he had almost recovered. Sui felt even more helpless. His spiritual liquid was useful, but it was really amazing when it met his overlord battle body. "Don't call me master, I don't accept disciples." Sui changed his voice and said in a low voice. Instantly, Wang Shangwu was stunned on the spot and revealed an embarrassed expression. He sighed in disappointment and didn't say anything else. "But it's not like you don't have a chance." Suyi's voice came from behind. Wang Shangwu turned around and looked at Sui with hopeful eyes. Sui said softly, "Go deep into the mountains and challenge the demonic beasts inside. Don't give up no matter what. If you can reach the Origin Emperor realm in 3 days, I will definitely accept you as my disciple." Origin Emperor realm. That was a realm that he didn't even dare to think about. Could he become an Origin Emperor realm expert? Wang Shangwu followed Suyi's gaze and looked deep into the mountains. Demonic qi lingered in the air, and an extremely dangerous aura floated in the air. Wang Shangwu was speechless. Seeing that Wang Shangwu was hesitating, Sui raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, "If you want to be an expert and protect the people you want to protect, you have to experience growth and experience. Hiding under the wings of others for your whole life, you can only be a weakling. Fighting side by side with your brothers, bringing glory to your hometown. Are all these things from heaven?" Sui. Thinking of Sui, Wang Shangwu's body swayed slightly. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and clenched his fists tightly. It was as if he was in a dilemma. "All right, Senior, I want to challenge." Wang Shangwu nodded heavily, and his eyebrows were filled with determination. "Have you thought it through?" "Yes." "Never give up. Never give up." Wang Shangwu took a breath of cold air, and a cold gaze shot out from the corner of his eyes. He said in a clear voice, "I want to be an expert." "Good." Sui looked at Wang Shangwu approvingly. He placed his hand between Wang Shangwu's eyebrows, and a strong soul energy was injected into Wang Shangwu's body. Wang Shangwu closed his eyes obediently. Suyi's voice slowly flowed into Wang Shangwu's soul. He said, "In this deep mountain, there is a demon emperor realm demonic beast, and many demon void realm demonic beasts. I will teach you a king grade martial skill now. You can use it first. If you can reach the Origin Emperor realm in the Yun family's selection 3 days later, I will teach you a royal grade martial skill." While his soul was injected into Wang Shangwu's body, Sui also thoroughly examined Wang Shangwu's flesh, blood, meridians, and acupoints. The surprise in his heart grew stronger. Wang Shangwu's flesh was tougher than others, and his meridians were as wide as his own divine spiritual meridians. It was just that there were still many acupoints that were not connected. This is also related to his low cultivation level. A person's acupoints will be connected as their cultivation level rises, and they will be closer to the qi of heaven and earth. Chi Feihong explained. After a while, Wang Shangwu opened his eyes and bowed to Sui with gratitude. Immediately, Wang Shanwu returned the remaining spiritual liquid to Su Yi and said with a determined smile, "Sir, I will return this elixir to you." Chapter 21:16. Su Yi gladly took the pills. Wang Shanwu nodded heavily and said in a deep voice, "Sir, I'll take my leave first. I'll see you at the Yun family selection 3 days later." Looking at Wang Shanwu's departing figure, Su Yi's heart was slightly sour. A faint melancholy could be seen in his black robe. "This guy's stubbornness is quite similar to yours. I'm sure he'll come 3 days later." Qi Feihong chuckled softly. He was also trying to reassure Su Yi. Su Yi shrugged his shoulders. A trace of determination flashed across his eyes. He said faintly, "The past few years in the Yun family have been a great change for Wang Shangwu's ordinary life. I'll take this gamble with him." Shaking his head, Su Yi tossed aside his complicated thoughts. Yun Zhongli's appearance gradually appeared in his mind. His heart suddenly tightened. He said coldly, "The Dire Sea Selection Conference. I want to see what it's all about." Spatial ripples appeared out of thin air. The black figure disappeared on the spot and headed in the direction of ancient Moon City. Boundless Land, Imperial Palace. After Mu Renjia left, he returned to the Boundless Sect first. Mu Ling accompanied Dan Ruxian back to Imperial Palace. What happened tonight was too strange. Once they returned to the palace, Dan Ruxian reported to Duke Dan, who was in seclusion. Duke Dan, who was obsessed with alchemy, flew into a rage when he heard the name Golden Pill Workshop. He immediately ordered all the vice palace masters, elders, and deacons to gather in the conference pavilion. Angry shouts and roars could be heard from time to time in the palace master's alchemy room. Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling were like children who had done something wrong. They stood beside the table with their hands behind their back. "Wronged? You're wronged?" Duke Dan was fuming with anger. He scolded Dan Ruxian like pouring beans. The two women opposite him did not dare to talk back. After taking a sip of tea, Duke Dan began to scold again. "I told you to keep a low profile. Keep a low profile. Haven't you suffered enough in the Imperial Soul competition? As the Palace Master, I didn't even care about the Golden Pill Workshop. What are you doing? You even want to smash their shop. Why don't you try smashing one for me?" As soon as he finished speaking, Dan Honggong's withered hand reached out from his sleeve, as if he was about to strike. His old eyes were full of anger, but he still stopped in midair. Dan Ruxian immediately closed her eyes and retreated, feeling wronged. She frowned and pouted. "How would I know? I don't even have the ingredients to refine medicine for Brother Hero. I have no choice but to go look for the herbs." Dan Ruxian muttered softly with narrowed eyes. "You little ingrate. You're always talking about that brat Mu Renjia." Speaking of Mu Renjia, Dan Honggong turned his head to look at Mu Ling and reprimanded, "Little Ling Zi, you're more sensible than Xian. Why are you following in her footsteps? It almost caused a disaster." Hearing this, Mu Ling sighed and curled her lips. She looked at Dan Ruxian and sincerely said, "Grandpa Hong." Dan Honggong waved his sleeves and sat down angrily. He scratched the corner of his mouth and said softly, "Now that things have come to this, we can only wait for Sect Master Situ to come and discuss how to remedy the situation. You don't have to blame yourselves too much." Dan Ruxian saw that Dan Honggong's tone had softened. She immediately leaned forward and said softly, "Grandpa, who do you think we met tonight?" Rubbing his forehead, Dan Honggong said casually, "They are." Dan Honggong paused and raised his eyebrows. "Go, go, go. You'll know when the time comes." Dan Honggong tapped his finger on the table and muttered to himself, "Should I report this to Palace Master Duanmu? If it's really the one I'm thinking of, it's no small matter." Dan Honggong thought for a while and rejected the idea in his heart. He shook his head and said, "The Heaven Rider Soul competition is already embarrassing enough. If we provoke such a force, we won't be able to enter the selection competition. We can't let this leak out. Standing to the side, Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling looked at Dan Honggong, muttering to himself strangely. They didn't know what Dan Honggong was worried about. Why was he acting as if he was facing a great enemy? At this moment, a deep voice came from the corner of the alchemy room. Now, even if you don't want to let Palace Master Duanmu know, you have no choice. The black shadow gradually turned into a ball of light and turned from black to white. The shadow on the ground became longer and longer. A black-robed figure gradually walked out. Who is it? Sensing the powerful aura, Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling immediately shot out their Yuan Qi. They activated their soul energy and Yuan Qi at the same time. Qi La. With a wave of the black robe, a majestic Yuan Qi rushed out like a wave and collided with each other. The mighty impact quickly pushed the two girls back. In an instant, Dan Honggong quickly stood up and stretched out his hands to catch the two girls and pulled them behind him. His body leaned forward and his hands pushed out. As he roared, a powerful sound wave accompanied by soul energy collided with the black shadow's Yuan Qi aura. Bang! A deep sonic boom suddenly sounded in the alchemy room. A visible ball of energy spread out. Violent spatial ripples instantly shattered the curtains, tables and chairs in the alchemy room, turning them into dust. 1. The remaining shock wave swept across the cauldron in the center of the room, leaving behind a faint white mark. Dan Honggong glanced at the shaking cauldron from the corner of his eye. His white brows sank, full of fear. The person in front of him had snuck into his alchemy room without him knowing. His soul energy was probably comparable to an Yuan domain realm expert. If he was an enemy, it would be troublesome. Who are you? You don't recognize me? A clear voice came from the black robe. White jade hands lifted the brim of the hat. Under the black robe, a pair of deep and bright eyes were staring at Grand Duke Dan. Languid and casual, but powerful ripples of light were not to be trifled with. Dan Honggong would recognize this face even if it turned to ash. Sui! Dan Honggong and Dan Ruxian shouted at the same time. Suddenly, Dan Ruxian looked as if she had seen her enemy. The flame in her hand burned brighter. Her face turned cold. You bastard, how dare you come here? I'm going to kill you today. It's him. Mu Ling seemed to recognize Su Yi as the mysterious person in Golden Pill Plaza and immediately whispered to Dan Honggong and Dan Ruxian. You were in Golden Pill Plaza that day? Dan Honggong asked with a frown, but his brows gradually relaxed. After all, Su Yi could be considered half a member of Endless Command Heavenly Palace. His hatred for Su Yi was at most for making him and Endless Command Heavenly Palace lose face. Su Yi's lips curled, his eyes cold, and his body exuded a wild and arrogant aura. He calmly and lazily stared at Dan Ruxian, smiling without saying a word. Dan Honggong immediately understood. He tilted his head and scolded, You two, get out! Don't let anyone in! But the sect master will be here soon. Mu Ling reminded in a low voice. Su Yi raised his brow, a trace of indifference flashing through his eyes. He said softly, Let them wait outside. If their attitude is good, it will be a great opportunity for Endless Command. Chapter 21:17. Hearing this, Mu Ling's eyes flashed with astonishment. She looked at Dan Honggong and pulled Dan Ruxian out of the room. After the two left, Dan Honggong's eyes flashed with dissatisfaction and helplessness. He said coldly, Can you speak now? Knowing that Dan Honggong was still holding a grudge, Su Yi smiled and said in a low voice, I know you're unhappy that the Limitless Celestial Palace lost face in the Imperial Soul competition, but I heard that the Ancient Cloud Immortal Sect is hoarding herbs to prepare for the opening of the Profound Sea Secret Realm. It's the Yun family. I knew it. Dan Honggong frowned and took a deep breath. Immediately, a sharp light flashed between Dan Honggong's brows. He looked at Su-yi and said with a gentle tone, "What do you think?" 3 days later, the Yun family will select 3 people from the Imperial Soul Palace and the Limitless Celestial Sect to enter the secret realm to compensate for the loss caused by the hoarding of elixirs. Who do you think can participate in the competition? Sui replied. Hearing these words, Dan Honggong began to hesitate. He carefully checked the people who could participate in the competition in his mind and immediately sighed. The Yun family values the profound sea secret realm so much that they can even temporarily put aside the dispute with the Long family. There's no one in Jutian Palace who can participate. Dan Honggong shook his head. Dan Honggong narrowed his eyes and said to himself, "The Limitless Celestial Sect will definitely let Mu Renjie participate. If the Limitless Celestial Palace can't send anyone, won't they lose face in the boundless land?" Su-yi turned around and nodded. Dan Honggong wouldn't let Dan Ruxian take such a big risk. He said in a low voice, "I can participate in the competition for the Limitless Celestial Palace." "Really?" Dan Honggong's eyes lit up. Then, he frowned and said, "What's your condition?" Su-yi laughed inwardly. This old guy is really smart. He nodded and said, "Not only will I go to the Yun family, but I'll also bring someone with me. I'm afraid the Limitless Celestial Sect won't agree. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity," Dan Honggong said with a troubled expression. The Limitless Sect had always been close to the Yun family in secret. Even if they didn't know about what had happened in the desperate straits of the Black Sea, they would still have heard about it. If it were anyone else, they would not give up so easily. That's a problem for you to consider. I can only guarantee that the Limitless Command Sky Palace will gain face in front of the Yun family. And it definitely surpasses the Limitless Sect. Sui shrugged and said slowly. Then, Sui stood up and looked at Dan Honggong. He said, "What do you think? It's not a loss, right? Think about it." Bang! Dan Honggong immediately looked at Sui. He could not afford to lose face in front of Palace Master Duanmu. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fine. The Limitless Sect wants to snatch it from me. I'll ban him again. Without the herbs, it's useless even if you have talent." Poor Limitless Sect. Chi Feihong was already laughing inside Su-yi's mind. With a calm expression, Su-yi chatted with Dan Honggong for a long while before leaving. Dan Honggong would be the one to negotiate with the Everlasting Sect. Limitless Command Sky Palace, Conference Hall. Why does your Command Sky Palace want 2 spots? An elegant and refined voice suddenly hardened. The sound waves rippled and shook one's soul. You don't want the herbs anymore? If you have thick skin, I don't care. Dan Honggong's face turned red. The group of Vice Palace Masters behind him also shouted. Immediately, the noise in the discussion hall was so loud that it was about to overturn the roof. The bargaining continued for a long time. Outside the hall, Mu Ling and Dan Ruxian held hands and walked out of the palace. They whispered to each other and chatted happily. Outside the Limitless Command Sky Palace, the waves gently rolled under the moonlight. It was very much like the thoughts of a girl. Mu Ling and Dan Ruxian sat side by side and looked at the bright moon in the sky. Mu Ling's mind kept replaying Su-yi's frivolous face. "Ruxian, that person just now was Su-yi. I didn't expect him to be so young. He's even younger than junior brother Ren. He's so strong." Hearing this, Dan Ruxian immediately snorted and said with a cold face, "This guy has embarrassed me and grandfather many times just because he's young and can fight. Even in alchemy you made Grandpa lose all face." Mu Ling looked at Dan Ruxian's angry face and knew that Dan Ruxian had always been high-spirited. After being taught a lesson by Su-yi, it was difficult for her to vent her anger. "In that case, he's your nemesis." Mu Ling chuckled. "Bah! If he was half as good as senior brother Renjie, I wouldn't hate him so much. Arrogant. He's even more arrogant than those two from the Yun family. Dan Ruxian rolled her eyes. Junior brother Rinjie is good in every way. He's just a martial arts maniac. Mu Ling chuckled and shook her head. I wonder who else will go to the Yun family's desperate situation. Dan Ruxian, who already knew the general situation, began to feel melancholy. He should be the next one, right? Mu Ling rested her chin on her hand and turned to look at Dan Ruxian. Her eyes were clear as she looked at the star chess in the sky and said faintly, "Will it be you?" Dan Ruxian sniffed sadly, thinking that Mu Ling was talking about her. She said in a low voice, "I'm only good at alchemy. If I enter a desperate situation, I'm afraid I'll be a burden. It won't be me." Upon hearing these words, Mu Ling immediately rejoiced. Soon after, an undetectable glint flashed across her eyes. For 3 days, Su-Yi stayed in the Infinite Command Heavenly Palace. At the same time, he inquired about the Long family from Dan Honggong. The rest of the time, he was cultivating and preparing to go to the desperate situation of the Lagoon Sea. "Aren't you going to see your brother?" In the quiet room, Qi Feihong finally flew out after confirming that there was no one. He looked at the surrounding cauldrons and sniffed from time to time. Hearing this, Su-Yi slowly opened his clear eyes. A trace of worry flashed through his eyes. Then, he shook his head and said in a low voice, "I'd better not go. If I go, I'll only help him. It won't do him any good." Qi Feihong chuckled and looked at Su-Yi approvingly. He asked, "Haven't you thought about taking in a disciple?" "Taking in a disciple?" Su-Yi stood up. His vigorous aura collided with the air, and a small fluctuation spread out. "You're now a big shot of the 4 sections. Without a disciple, you won't have any face at all." Qi Feihong stroked his chin. Su-Yi scratched the back of his head. He had never thought about taking in a disciple. He was used to being alone. If someone called him master, it would be a bit of a hassle. Even the Bawang sect was managed by Nangong and Merciless West. If he had another disciple, it would be even more troublesome. "Let's find a chance." Su-Yi walked to the table and took a sip of tea. He looked up and said, "Let's go. Lu Ti and the others should be here." As for the selection of disciples, they didn't know the specific rules for the selection. After a discussion between the Infinite Command Heavenly Palace and the Infinite Command Heavenly Palace, the Infinite Command Heavenly Palace finally made a concession. They decided to send 2 people and the Infinite Command Heavenly Palace 3. However, the Infinite Command Heavenly Palace would go first and the Infinite Command Heavenly Palace would go second. The first 3 would be chosen to participate in the desperate situation of the Lagoon Sea. Translator, Namiyami. Editor, Namiyami. Chapter 21:18. It was early in the morning, and the steps were covered in a faint layer of green from the morning dew. However, it was a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere in the Limitless Sect's martial arts hall. When Su-Yi arrived, there were already many people gathered in the martial hall of the Limitless Sect. With a casual glance, he could see that the people from the Yutian Palace and the Limitless Sect were divided into 2 groups. On the left were the Yutian Palace, and on the right were the Limitless Sect. Sect Master Situ Mu sat on the right. Su-Yi had seen him before in the Tianfeng battle. His 2 disciples, Mu Renjie and Mu Ling, stood to the side. As soon as Su-Yi entered, everyone looked at Su-Yi. At this time, Su-Yi had changed his appearance to that of a young man in his late 20s. However, the more unfamiliar he was, the more curious and suspicious everyone was. "Wen Yuan, come over here." Dan Honggong called out to Su-Yi and looked forward with a calm expression. This was the name Su-Yi had told Dan Honggong. He had taken his father's name and his mother's name, Wen Fu, and put them together. "Is there a person called Wen Yuan in the Imperial Heavenly Palace?" On the side of the Limitless Sect, Sect Master Situ Mu immediately turned his head and asked Mu Renjie. I don't remember Dan Honggong having such a disciple. I've never seen this person before. The elders of the Limitless sect were also discussing. Their gazes fell on Sui and quickly moved away. However, seeing that the Vice Palace Master and elders of the Yutian Palace didn't react, they could only discuss in low voices. Wen Yuan? Dan Ruxian and Mu Ling looked at each other and smiled. Because they had been told in advance that they couldn't say anything, they had a tacit understanding. Sui walked to Dan Honggong's side as if nothing had happened and brushed past Dan Ruxian. Dan Ruxian glanced at Sui. She was still angry and threatened. If you dare to embarrass our Yutian palace, I won't forgive you. Sui leaned closer and whispered, You should be concerned about your big brother Renjie first. You bastard. Dan Ruxian lowered her head and frowned in embarrassment. When Mu Ling saw this scene, her eyes flickered with a strange light. Senior Mu Ling, do you know this Wen Yuan? Mu Renjie also lowered his head and asked Mu Ling. Soon after, he said, in the Imperial Heavenly Palace, there are 3 spots and 1 is still empty. What's going on? After the selection, you will naturally know. After all, you two have met before. Mu Ling smiled and nodded at Mu Renjie. Then, she quickly walked up to Sui. Looking at Su Yi's sparkling eyes, there was a fleeting and infinite divine essence hidden in them. Mu Ling once again felt a kind of soul energy suppression, and she couldn't help muttering to herself, So strong. It's about the same as Master. Hello, I'm Mu Ling. Nice to meet you. Mu Ling smiled as she extended her jade-like hand. She was gentle and elegant. After her gaze met with Su Yi's, she quickly averted her gaze. Mu Ling had left quite a good impression on Su Yi during their time at Golden Pill Plaza and Guyu Mountain. Su Yi did not reject her. They shook hands out of courtesy. Su Yi smiled faintly as his eyes lit up. Nice to meet you. Good luck, he said softly. Mu Ling didn't expect Su Yi to be so gentle. It was completely different from the domineering aura in Duke Hong's room. Mu Ling's expression changed slightly as she nodded and murmured, Yes, let's do our best. Mu Ling smiled and retreated to Dan Ruxian's side. She said softly, He's quite good. What you said is completely wrong. Che. Sister Mu Ling, don't tell me you like him? Dan Ruxian laughed softly and poked Mu Ling's elbow. Mu Renjie also saw this scene and was puzzled. It was as if he was asking when Mu Ling knew this Wen Yuan. The noisy hall was suddenly suppressed by a voice. Everyone held their breaths at the same time. Lord Lu Ti of the Ancient Cloud Immortal Sect has arrived. Qin Ru's voice resounded in the martial arts hall. Immediately, everyone stood up and stared at the door in unison. Their eyes revealed a trace of light and some reverence. Lu Ti, who looked like a transcendent being, strode in. Beside him, Qin Ru wriggled her huge body and swayed with her oily belly as she walked over. She led Lu Xian and Lu Yi into the hall. Both of them still had their chins raised high and smiled frivolously, full of disdain. Lord Lu Ti, please excuse us for not going out to meet you. Duke Hong and Situ Mu stood up at the same time and walked forward from the crowd. Lu Ti smiled and a few strands of silver hair fluttered in the wind, adding a bit of elegance. He said softly, Greetings, seniors. Lu Ti is just a deacon, so there's no need to stand on ceremony. This time, I'm here on the orders of the family head to select 3 talents to go to the trial to make up for the deficit of elixirs. May I know how to select them? Situ Mu stretched out his right hand and a trace of excitement appeared between his brows. Lu Ti smiled and looked at Lu Xian and Lu Yi behind him. He said, Qin Ru should have told you about the general situation. The 3 trial testers can choose the 2 youths behind me as long as they can fight for more than 100 breath. After that, Lu Xian and Lu Yi came forward with evil smiles. After looking around, Lu Xian smiled and said, 50 breaths. That's enough. Don't waste time. Lu Yi smiled and shrugged his shoulders. He said in a low voice, 30 breaths. Deacon Lu, you still have to give the elixirs to the elders. There's not much time left. Immediately, the faces of the people of the Limitless Sect and Yutian Palace changed. Duke Hong and Situ Mu's faces also darkened. 100 breaths became 50 breaths and then 30 breaths. How was this a selection of talents? It was obviously humiliating the Yutian Palace and the Limitless Sect. Damn it, how can you bully people like this? The ancient Cloud Immortal Sect has always been high profile. It seems that these decades of low profile were all fake. How dare they talk like this? Arrogant. Do they really think that there's no one in the Yutian Palace? How dare they brag? The Limitless Sect is not afraid. People of the aristocratic families can't be so arrogant. Dan Honggong also sneered softly. His eyes instantly shot out a surge of soul energy, exerting it on Lu Xin and Lu Yi. Duke Hong said in a sinister voice, 8th level Origin Emperor brats, no wonder you're so arrogant. Just any 2 people from the Yun family can become our deacons. Situ Mu also smiled. He, who had always been neutral, had anger in his eyes. 2nd level Origin Domain Realm Origin Chi surged out. The blue robe behind him fluttered even though there was no wind, causing Lu Ti and the others to change their expressions. Seeing that something was wrong, Lu Ti's heart sank. He shouted angrily, "Don't be presumptuous." Lu Ti looked around and saw that everyone's eyes were solemn. He smiled and said, "Everyone, these 2 are the grandsons of our ancient sect's elders. It's their first time out of the sect, so it's inevitable that they are arrogant and arrogant. You can say that they are arrogant. Please don't be offended." Duke Hong placed his palm on Situ Mu's shoulder and said softly, "Since they're selecting talents, if we don't accept the challenge, it will show that we're not qualified to enter the Yun family. For mobile phones, please visit .com. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.